Like,
All right. Welcome to the latest episode of Plateau TV. We've taken a few weeks off as necessitated by the July 4th holiday here in the U.S. If there are any, if we have any overseas fans, that holiday over here, and then also just some work things. As you know, we are not famous like PewDiePie or whatever the hell that guy's name is. So we all have careers other than this. But we're back, and I am really excited to once again be joined by Jay the Stingray. How you doing, Jay?
Doing well.
Nice. And Orc is also with us. His profile picture is what shows to us. He's off camera right now, but his voice inspires us all. How are you doing, Orc?
Yes, it does. And like they say in Wayne's World, in front of Alice Cooper, I'm not worthy.
Thank you. There's been, a fair amount. First,
did you know, Bruce, that the Indians called it Milwaukee?
I didn't. Thank you. Thank you for educating me. We've all learned something here today, and isn't that really what it's about? The week that we sort of went on temporary sabbatical was a fairly significant one, at least in the sense that the 8th part of Twin Peaks aired, which proceeded to blow up everybody's brain, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But we were remarking before the show that the Twin Peaks stuff sort of dominates the program, and I love Twin Peaks, and we're definitely going to talk about Twin Peaks. Don't think we won't. However, part 8, if nothing else, is just pure art and surrealism, and I'm not sure what we can say here that would be better than what you can find on other channels that are devoted specifically to Twin Peaks, like Obnoxious or Anonymous or The Vlog Lady or something like that. So we will talk about it, and I very much look forward to getting your thoughts, Jay, because as I was watching it, it did occur to me, part 8 anyway, I was like, Jay's probably got like a hole in the back of his head right now. The back of your brain blew out, because that's how I felt. But again, before we dive into that, there were a couple news stories I wanted to talk through with you guys and just get your reaction on. And do remind me, because I know we've talked about Game of Thrones, I think, a little bit. Jay, are you a Game of Thrones fan too, Orc?
I've never seen an episode.
Oh goodness, Orc, you make me cry. Well, Jay,
I'm a very sad individual. That's why I only watch pilots. That's why Orc watches the pilot memes, because there's just so much shit. I gotta watch From Dusk Till Dawn, Game of Thrones, True Detective. Yeah.
Watch those others before From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a few things that should go higher on the list.
Hannibal, Bates Motel, all that stuff, and then they're like, "Oh, season 2 of Stranger Things is coming out October 27th," and I'm like, "God damn it! I can't sit more than an hour. This fucking sucks."
Why don't you give me your list, Orc, and I'll help order it for you? Because just with everything you've said there, I think there's definitely an order I would go. I'm
gonna send the same list to you and Jay, and then
please do.
Rank
it. We'll take care of that offline.
Do not watch. You're a fucking loser. Watch now. Watch now. Watch now.
Right. So, Jay, and I don't know whether you saw this, but it was revealed, I think, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So this could be old news for some of you, but still interesting. That this is not major news, that we already know it. But so Game of Thrones 7th season kicks off this coming Sunday. Very much looking forward to that. It's going to be exciting. And if I'm not mistaken, too, I do think there's going to be a show with Pizzawell of the Sausage Factory either tomorrow or the day after, but that's coming up soon. We'll talk about Game of Thrones, so please keep your eyes open for that. More information coming if you're following all those channels. But in addition to that, there's been word about the final season of Game of Thrones. So this new season coming out this Sunday, the 7th season, kind of the first season largely without any net as far as being drawn from the books. It is drawn from George R.R. Martin, the author of the books. Like the show creators have, obviously they've talked with him. He's kind of given them a roadmap as far as here's what's going to happen. Here's, generally where things are going. And so the show is kind of purely in the hands of the showrunners without any book stuff kind of propping it up, other than what had been kind of, laid down in advance. However, coming to the point, apparently the final season, which I think is slated to have 6 episodes, this next season's gonna this current season that's about to start is I think gonna have 7, but I think the final season will have 6, if I remember correctly. And apparently many of them may have feature-length episodes. That is the news. That was the big reveal that apparently the episodes might be in the range of like 82 minutes each or more. Which again, in my opinion, bring it on. Like, gosh, I could watch a 2-hour episode of Game of Thrones. It's so cinematic. But what are your thoughts on that, Jay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I got to tell you, man, I don't like hearing stuff like that before the season starts, only because, like, when when Westworld exploded and everyone was obsessed with Westworld, I was really into it, and then I heard that there was like 5 more seasons coming, and it just really got me discouraged, knowing that there's not going to be any kind of closure, or anything in that period of time. And I've been hearing that there's 4 different spinoffs coming from Game of Thrones. Have you heard that as well?
I've heard that there are writers developing pilots or pitches for 4 spinoffs. Yes. And I've heard different news too that George R.R. Martin's like helping to write 2 of them, except that he just recently being within the past couple of days, kind of put a post on his My Journal site or wherever the heck he communicates from, saying he's not doing any, like, he's a producer on them, but he's not writing anything.
He's getting a fat paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. He's collecting money essentially from being associated with it. But he knows at this point, like, people are going to start attacking him in public if he doesn't friggin' finish the damn books. So yeah, I my feeling, and we'll get into this, I think when we start talking about spinoffs later in the show. If they have a good story idea, great. But if it just turns out to be, well, we just want to do more Game of Thrones so we can make money, then, I think I'd side with you. But it's sort of like I would need to know, like, what's the story? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Or sorry, is it going to be worth the effort? Or are we just trying to attach the Game of Thrones brand to something and make more money? Because if that's all they're doing, I say just let the show stand on its own then.
That's really troubling to me. Yeah, I don't like things like that. It really turns me off, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. It's not. The good news is, Jay, is this isn't a problem you're going to need to worry about, because HBO has said if any of these even come to fruition, which it's not guaranteed they will. Say what you want about HBO, but I think HBO is a pretty high bar when it comes to pushing stuff forward. Like, they usually don't just push out shit.
That is true.
There may.
Yeah.
And so, like, if the pilots that are made don't, or the pilots or the pitches or whatever, however far it gets, if they don't think it's worth it, and not even if if Game of Thrones didn't exist and in isolation it might have been a really good show, I still think they would be like, well, everybody's going to compare it to Game of Thrones anyway, and if it doesn't rise to that same level of quality, then we're probably just not going to do it. So I feel somewhat protected there, but we're still not going to see these shows for at least 3 years, would be my guess, because this season needs to air, and there's talk that the final season may not air for longer than a year. That final season may take, so it may not be next summer. It could be next winter, or heck, the following spring, which sounds like agony to me. I'm sure this is going to end on a hell of a cliffhanger, like all of them have. But that's we're not going to have to deal with this problem for a while. But the thing that annoys me about hearing that the episodes are going to be longer is, I find myself wondering. It's like, well, then why are we doing less episodes? Couldn't we conceivably just do more episodes and make them the standard length, rather than kind of just? And again, maybe the way they have the story mapped out, the slices of story, it makes sense to do that. So, from that perspective, I get it. But I don't know. I'm excited because I like Game of Thrones, and I think, definitely more time with the characters is, I'll take it. But that was my thought.
It go in a direction that I don't like too many times to be excited for that at all, just in my personal opinion. Episodes
going long.
Well, long, just like what AMC has done with a lot of their type stuff, what they did with Breaking Bad. They took the material and they split it into 2 seasons. Essentially, or they put it and then put a huge break in between the seasons.
Right.
Or just in between the parts of the season, I guess I should say.
Right. Well, I mean, this is sort of a different thing. Like, I don't think they're doing that. It's purely just the episode. So most Game of Thrones episodes are like 55 minutes. I'm pretty sure there's some geeky people out there that have like mapped out. There's an Excel spreadsheet somewhere with exactly the average length. The exact average length of a typical Game of Thrones episode. But let's call it 55 minutes. Last season, I think we had one of the longest episodes to date, and it came in at like an hour and 2 minutes or something like that. But apparently this coming season will have the new longest episode. It'll be like an hour and maybe 10 minutes or something like that. But that the final season, allegedly the episodes could be that or longer.
Wow. Yeah, I love that it doesn't have to fit a block. I think that is really cool because it lets them tell the story they want to tell instead of, oh, we got to cut this out for time. So I think that is really cool.
Well, and it's possible that for HBO, they might say, you're right, we don't have traditional programming, but if you're just some Joe Schmo show, we believe in you, we like you, but generally speaking, try to keep it under an hour so that people's DVRs can neatly, grab the next show or the next movie or whatever. With Game of Thrones, I mean, that's their big subscription generator. That's their big money maker. So I'm sure they say to those guys, okay, do it, make it. I mean, they have budgets and everything, but HBO were the ones who were trying to convince the showrunners to do more episodes. For the longest time, I think they even wanted them to do even more seasons. But the showrunners were like, listen, like, we can't just keep stretching this out. Like, it has an end point. And to your point, Jay, like, we don't want to just drag it out. Like, let's do it right. And so also credit to HBO, they listened. I was like, okay, all right, you want to do this, you want to do it your way, and you want to do it the right way. Okay, we got it. But it is nice to see that the episode length is variable, and hopefully we won't feel shortchanged as far as what we get.
I have a serious question, though. Really serious question about Game of Thrones.
Sure.
Is it true that midgets just kill everybody in that show?
That is not true. Although
bombs everywhere and like fucking
some may do some killing on occasion. I can't be more specific than that, but I'm not saying midgets don't kill anybody on the show. I'm just trying to be general about that.
Wait, we're PC on the show. Small people, little people.
Little people. I'm not sure what the official term is anymore, but
or I thought that was it.
Yeah, I forget what they call. What do they call Tyrion? Do they call him a midget, or do they have a dwarf? They call him a dwarf, I think, on the show.
Okay, dwarf is someone who I played in World of Warcraft when I'm playing with Cole. All right, that's a completely different story. Go on.
But anyway, so moving on. The next bit of news, and this just came out, I think it was yesterday. Curb Your Enthusiasm's 9th season premiering October 1st. Another HBO story on HBO. And I am psyched for that. And to your point, Jay, about letting them just kind of do what they want. I really like how HBO's relationship with Larry David is this kind of open-ended thing where it's like, if he wants to do more seasons, sure, come back, do another season. Do you not want to do a season? You want to just make a movie? Okay, do it. It's like HBO realizes what they have with Larry David, and so it's like, dude, you're making us money. People want to see your show. Just you let us know when you're ready, and come back and do 10 episodes or whatever he does, and we're happy to have it.
That's probably the only way he would agree to it.
Right.
At all. I'll do it at my at my leisure.
Right.
Which is cool.
Yeah, but I'm in Brooklyn. I'm eating pizza. If this fucking isn't important, then don't fucking call me. There you go.
And then the final bit of news to discuss, which newly relevant to me because as I was telling you offline, Jay, I recently started Deadwood, and as it happens, I'm almost done with Deadwood. So I feel like a big jerk that I've only just now gotten into Deadwood. I feel like there's a part of my life has been missing that I haven't been watching the show until recently. But the other bit of news is that for years, because Deadwood was technically canceled by HBO.
Right.
But there was always talk of, well, we canceled it, but we have a good relationship with David Milch, the creator, and we personally, HBO, like the show. We know it has a fan base. If they'd like to come back and do a movie or a couple movies or something to close things out, we're on board with that. And nothing happened. Well, in recent years, there'd been a lot of talk of David Milch was working on a Deadwood screenplay, and turns out he has been, and he delivered it to HBO. And I believe Ian McShane, Al Swearingen, has read it. I believe what's his name, Earl Brown, who plays Dan on the show. I think he's read the script too. It's in HBO's hands. Ian McShane is tied up a little bit with American Gods on Starz.
Yeah.
But I think, I'm pretty sure he wants to be in it. And he recently said, he's like, listen, the script is in, it's delivered. If it doesn't get made, fucking blame HBO. So I think that, I'm excited about that. And I forget, Jay, you had watched Deadwood, or you hadn't finished it?
Yeah, I hadn't finished it, and it's been years since I, for whatever reason, stopped watching. But I need to catch up and finish it, because it kind of was open ended, right? Well,
I am about 3 episodes, I think, from the end, so I don't know yet. But giving the way things are building, I have a feeling I'm going to be pretty frustrated. But what I've seen so far has been just amazing. It's been great. And I was a huge fan of NYPD Blue. And so after I got through the first few episodes, where you could tell there was a little bit of growing pains and how to tell the story, but about halfway through the first season, I started seeing David Milch really come through in the writing, in the way that the characters talked and interrelated with one another. I mean, just the way that they'll just kind of end and begin sentences with anyways. Like NYPD Blue probably had like 5,000 instances of anyways, and so forth. It was just such. It seems like nonsense if you haven't seen it or NYPD Blue, but it's such a David Milch touch. But I've been greatly enjoying it. But yeah, and what prompted this news item was that Gerald McCraney was recently asked about this, and Gerald McCraney joined the show. Kind of mostly for its final season, but he appeared at the end of the second as Hirsch. Can't think of the first name all of a sudden. I think Robert Hirsch. And he basically said, I would drop anything to be in Deadwood again. So I don't know. But in any case, that was my news, and I see that Cameron from Obnoxious and Anonymous has joined us. How you doing, Cameron?
Oh, I'm here. I'm listening to all you guys talk about HBO, and I said, no, I got to get on this conversation because this is insane. HBO, I got a love-hate relationship with HBO. Most of the time, they are wonderful. Then sometimes they completely, what's the term, screw the pooch. So in the case of Deadwood, they canceled the show. I mean, they flat out canceled it. They didn't even have a chance to write an ending. So yes, you will be frustrated. There's no ending to this show. It's like Firefly. You're like, what happened? And so they said to David Milch, listen, you can come back and you can write, because season 4, they agreed to do, I think, 3 TV movies of like 2 hours each. And that was going to be season 4. So David Milch is working on it. But then he decides to do this thing called John from Cincinnati in the meantime.
That's right. He was behind that show, right?
And then that got canceled. And so he said, okay, I'll go back to Deadwood. And then HBO destroyed the goddamn town. They pulled it all down.
Right. Well, my understanding is that the town set was one of the reasons why the show, like one of the reasons the show got canceled, as I understand it. And I've been trying to read, I haven't been trying to read a ton about it simply because I don't want to be spoiled on anything. But I did read that pretty much the town of Deadwood is entirely built.
Yes.
It's a practical set. Like it's not just building fronts. There's an actual, like Al's Bar is an actual building with a second floor and everything. And so just the practicality of the sets was expensive, and maintaining it was expensive, and that contributed to it. Well, yeah, like you say, they tore the town down.
And another thing that was really expensive is that David Milch would get onto the set every damn day,
Yep.
and rewrite the script for 7 or 8 hours that day, and then shoot that night, and they'd have to pay everybody all day long for to work every hour. So that was another thing.
It's a classic David Milch move. I mean, that's largely why he left NYPD Blue. Like, they didn't fire him. I think he left of his own accord because David Milch also has some drinking problems and some various things. But my understanding is that's why he departed NYPD Blue. It was getting to be that situation where they'd turn in a script, they'd get on set and start shooting, and he'd start pulling the script pages out and rewriting things and new dialogue and new things here and there. And
if you can get a hold of the Deadwood DVDs or Blu-rays, they have like featurettes showing him doing this, and the actors are loving it because he's giving them more and more awesome stuff to do and say. But it's frustrating everybody at HBO. The other thing is that David Milch then went on to do Luck at HBO, which got pulled because it was killing horses.
Yeah, all the horses were getting killed during the making of it, right?
So I really like David Milch, but this guy has had one hell of a hard time at HBO, and the fact that they pulled the set down, so now it's going to cost 3 times as much to put the set back up.
Yeah,
which is going to be insane. The other thing is, you guys were talking about Game of Thrones and Curb Your Enthusiasm and all that. The thing is that HBO, and I think Jay mentioned Westworld being like 5 more seasons or something like that. That's the
plan for that. Yeah,
that's the HBO way. It's 6 seasons and out. That's what the only thing is, like, Curb Your Enthusiasm was allowed to stay a little bit longer, but most of the time it's 6 seasons and you're out. It doesn't matter how popular. 6th in the City, you're gone. Goodbye.
I think Curb is probably insanely cheap to produce.
Oh yeah, it's shot like on video cameras.
Filming, but yeah, I mean, it's basically like scripted improv, and he just wanders around, and it's talking heads. Well, very funny. I'm not knocking it, but
no.
Yeah,
but at least this looks like a TV series now. If you watch season 1, it looks like it was filmed on his camcorder.
Yeah, season 1 of Curb is a little rough. It's still very funny, but yeah, because also too, the first season of Curb, wasn't it made in like 99 or 2000? I mean, it's
old,
like almost 20 years old. Yeah,
right. Yeah, and I think that show's great, and I think why that show stands up is because he only comes back when he has an idea.
Right. Well, that's what we were. I think before you jumped on is that's what I was saying is that it's like at this point his relationship with HBO is such that, like, if you want to do another one, come back. We'll do it. If you don't, okay.
Now Game of Thrones is money to HBO, but I don't know if these spinoffs are going to take off. There's a lot of talk about them, but once they start getting into Watchmen, which
there it is, Jay, I saw that,
because they're going to start doing Watchmen soon, and that's going to eat up a lot of their money.
I'm looking forward to that. And again, the reason I'm looking forward to it is probably the reason why many people aren't. But again, I'm a big Damon Lindelof fan. I just am. I know he has his haters, but I think he's a great writer.
Well, Damon Lindelof is, and I say this jokingly, he's going to take me off in 2 weeks at Comic-Con because he's hosting the Twin Peaks panel, and then they're going to play episode 11 2 days before everybody else sees it.
What?
Yeah, so everyone in attendance gets to see episode 11.
Ugh.
So stay off the internet.
Yeah, I'll have to. Well, the good news is though he's like a real super fan. It's not like they just got some schmo like, oh, I like Twin Peaks. Like Damon Lindelof does. He's a Twin Peaks aficionado.
Yes,
like,
and I like him a lot. I like him a lot, but people like him are super fans of a lot of shows, and that drives me nuts.
Well, so am I. What do I drive you nuts?
No, but you're not in the industry either like that, where you're just like, that if you're a super fan, you'll get on camera more.
Oh, I see.
It's like when Eli Roth was starting to become popular. You can find him on so many like behind the scenes featurettes talking about this director and this thing was an influence on Hostel. And it's like, no, it wasn't. You just want to get on the damn documentary.
I was saying
that like the master of modern horror. I thought I've heard that.
He is the master of modern horror. Don't you forget it.
Jay looks like he's about to throw up.
Yeah.
Did you not see The Green Inferno? Come on.
Oh, I loved it. Oh, masterpiece.
And Knock Knock. Come on. Yeah, it was great. And now he's coming out with Death Wish. Come on, with Bruce Willis.
See, and I gotta be honest. Like, let's. This troubles me for one reason. I like that. I'm pretty open-minded. I genuinely am. If someone's got a good idea, and again, Death Wish, I realize it's an idea that's been done. My instinct is not to just shit on things just because it's a reboot or a remake. If you think there's a way of modernizing the story or telling it in a different way, I can be supportive of that. Why I don't like this incarnation is purely from casting. Bruce Willis is a fucking badass, okay? That's John McClane, all right? That's who that is. Whereas Paul Kersey, sorry, that's the character's name, but oh Jesus, it's totally escaping me. Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson. While Charles Bronson is a badass, he's been a badass in movies before. They made him up, and he's kind of a slight dude. He looked just kind of like some regular schmo whose family gets killed, and it played into what the story was. A regular dude getting taking street vengeance out on the criminal element. I just
can I do a Die Hard quote? Sorry, I missed out right there.
What's the Die Hard quote? Or
next time you have the chance to kill someone, don't hesitate. Thanks for the advice.
It's good advice.
So Eric, who would you cast? I have an idea of who I would cast.
Well, again, just to finish the thought, I'm just saying it's like Bruce Willis is a badass. To me, that casting already spells trouble for me. You can't put Bruce Willis in that role.
Not anymore.
I mean, again, I realize he's older now, and they could probably make him look all haggard, but I don't think they're going to. Because that's the other thing with modern movies, they, especially one that'll probably have the notoriety that this one does, Bruce Willis is still somewhat of a sex symbol, an action hero. They're not going to make him look like 80 fucking years old and all broken down. He's going to have his bald head, and he's going to look like a badass, which defeats the purpose. But anyway, Cameron, who do you think we should cast in our fictional casting?
Okay, if you want to play in this postmodern world, Eli Roth should have gotten some balls and cast. Are you ready for this? Jeff Goldblum. I'll tell you why. Tell you why. Jeff Goldblum played the rapist in Deathwish.
Right.
And I think it would be awesome to see Jeff Goldblum in the Paul Kersey role, because I don't look at Jeff Goldblum and think badass.
Right. No, I would, for the meta reason, I would accept it. And for just to think, it would actually give Jeff Goldblum something different to do. Yes. We all love Jeff Goldblum, please go faster. We love that about Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. It'd be kind of cool to see him stretch himself a little bit. Yeah, he's been basically doing Jurassic Jeff Goldblum for the past 20 years now. Mm-hmm. Maybe
so is Christopher Walken. Then once they became the joke on Saturday Night Live, they've just been riding that line for the last 20 years.
Right. I would note that even though he didn't have a major role in it, his role in Man on Fire with Denzel, which, by the way, a movie I very much love. I think it's underrated.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking. So Christopher Walken is in Man on Fire with Denzel, and he doesn't. He has his role is not. He's more of a secondary character, but he does kind of set some plot pieces in motion. This was not a Christopher Walken, this was not the walking joke Christopher Walken. This was a more subdued, kind of even-handed performance, and chilling, in fact. And I liked it. So
he always tried with Tony Scott.
Yeah.
Whenever he was in a Tony Scott movie, he actually tried to give a performance.
Right.
You can see the Bruce Willis I'm phoning it in type of performance, which we get every week now on Vudu. There's some new streaming movie with Bruce Willis in it that drops, and I'm like, oh my God. I know this is about spin-offs, but let me just complain real quick. I'm really sick and tired of Jay, and I know you know about this. Universal Pictures dropped The Fate of the Furious on Blu-ray and only put the goddamn theatrical cut on the disc, and I have to get the director's cut only on streaming. That's ridiculous.
They want you to buy both.
No, I mean the code comes. The code comes with the streaming code.
Oh, okay. So
you get the director's cut with the code. But I don't like this idea because all the director's cuts on the other films were on the discs, and it's like I don't like this new way of doing stuff. Like for instance, the Beauty and the Beast code you gave me, right? That's the only way to get the commentary for the movie. The commentary is not on the Blu-ray; it's only on the streaming version.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I just want to complain because I'm you know what it makes me want to do? Stop buying DVDs. I'm thinking I think I'm almost done. Gonna turn in the towel.
Also. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I did my Criterion sale the other day. I was up at midnight, ready for that first. The moment it hit 12:00, I placed my order. But no, all this 4K stuff coming out, I'm done. I'm not rebuying my whole collection again. So, anyway.
Well, Cameron, I do want to lay out some ground rules because we were going to transition into Twin
sorry.
Peaks, and I just wanted to let you know that we are going to talk about Twin Peaks, and we could talk about it, till within reason. But I think trying to cover Part 8, the Mind F, the surrealist, beautiful art project that was Part 8, and also cover Part 9 would take like 3 hours to do. So we could talk about it. We're gonna provide our impressions, but largely tonight's topic will be the spinoffs. But I didn't want to ignore Twin Peaks because again, we've missed. This show has taken like a 2-week hiatus just for a number of reasons, and I do want to talk about it. But just so you understand, I know you're the resident expert, and we bring you in for this purpose.
No, it's okay. I did a watch along for episode 9 today. Which people can find on my channel. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that, there you go. For the most part, I'll let you guys talk and I'll pipe in once in a while. But go ahead. I'm interested in hearing what you guys think of the episodes.
Well, sure. Let me say that my reception of Part 8 was somewhat colored by the way in which I did it. I had to travel to San Francisco for work. And so I had to travel on Sunday evening to do this, and I was freaking out because, I was like, gosh, I got to see Twin Peaks. Like, I realized that I don't even watch it live. I usually have to put my daughter to bed and various other things, but, I was like, I got to watch it once it's available. So I ran back to my hotel. Like, once I got back from the airport, I ran out. I found an Indian place around the corner, brought some Indian food back to the hotel, sat down, and I had my tablet out because the hotel didn't have Showtime, and started watching. And there came a point where I basically was watching Part 8 hunched over my computer like this because, it begins normally enough. In fact, it pretty much picks up right where Part 7 had left off, where Doppel Evil Cooper, whatever you want to call him, Bob, was escaping from the prison with Ray. And, Ray manages to get the drop on Cooper at a roadside stop and shoots him. And and there was a part of me thinking like, holy cow, wow, like I didn't expect something like this to happen. And then David Lynch reminded me that whenever I think there's something I don't expect to happen, he has a way of showing me that, oh, you didn't expect that. Well, take a look, Sonny, because it's gonna happen again.
You said, man, was there some LSD in my Indian food or what?
Yeah.
By the way, he got shot exactly where Agent Cooper got shot at the end of season 1, with no vest. That's
true, because we saw that in Part 9 when he lifted it up. That is interesting. But in any case, woodsmen, greasy elves come out of nowhere and basically
ring around the Rosie.
Yeah, play Ring Around the Rosie above him and like rub him with blood. And then what we get is essentially, I think, the Twin Peaks version of an origin story for Bob, for the Black Lodge, for something. I confess, and Cameron, I leave the heavy graduate level stuff to you.
It's not, from what I can gather, it's not the creation of the lodges. It's because the book says that the lodges were already there. It's that the atom bomb created the rift that opened the doors for the lodges to come into our world. So it basically did the intercourse between the two worlds.
And that's fair and that's true, because in the book, and also just from what we learned from the show, the way that Sheriff Truman and Hawk talked about, the evil in the woods, and it's been here as long as anyone can remember. Typically that I expected that was much longer than 50 years, which is what from the first season of the show. So that's fair, and I buy that explanation. I use the term origin story merely as a shorthand for what we saw, but that's true.
It is an origin story.
I mean, it is. It's the modern.
It's the reason why Bob's here. It's the reason why apparently Laura got sent here. Who knows?
Right. That was the extra confusing thing.
Yeah. Midichlorians, anyone?
But yeah, I got actually. By the way, just kind of, I was feeling that a little bit. Now, again, definitely much better done. But I really want to see how this connects and develops in, because there's a part of me that was really kind of annoyed by that concept. And again, I don't even know what concept I'm talking about, because it's friggin' nonsense to me still. But just this idea that like Laura, this like, oh, it was always about Laura, and aliens sent her to Earth. And again, I'm just generalizing, although that seems to be what happened. I just kind of felt like, I don't know. I didn't really like that personally. I want to see how it all connects. I want to see the whole story. And again, I'm not going to reference metachlorines because I still sort of defend the concept of metachlorines. But this just seemed another example of like, oh, it's all connected. Oh, when you didn't think she was in, it's like, oh, it all goes back to the beginning, like that.
And it changes the whole dynamic. If what we are shown is to be true, it changes the whole dynamic. Why Bob wanted to get Laura, right? Because it's not just some random girl that he wanted to abuse or take over. It's the fact that there was always this continual struggle between good and evil, and he knew that she was sent there to destroy him. That changes everything. Right. I was more annoyed the fact that when the little gold ball comes down, or that it was her homecoming picture. I'm like, my God, the guy who took her homecoming picture, this picture has like spanned galaxies now. Right. I mean, it couldn't be a picture of her when she's 12 years old or something. That when Bob first started abusing her, because people wouldn't know that was Cheryl Lee. How do we know it's Cheryl Lee? Well, we'll put the Laura Palmer picture there. Right. But then again, today it was pointed out that the opening of the show, of the opening credits, is Laura's picture in a globe.
Is it in a globe? I thought it was just kind of merged with the clouds.
It does look like that, but if you look closely, there is sort of a circle around her.
Ah, okay. So I have not noticed that. I'll have to look for that.
Neither did I till today. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm more interested in about episode 8 is this a standalone episode in which people can kind of analyze and pick it apart, or will they make references? Or will they make references to it throughout the rest of the series? Will there be something that we'll learn more about who the young boy, young girl were? Are we going to learn anything about that, or is it just a standalone intermission episode?
Right. So a fair question. But Jay, what do again? We've been going on. I was very interested to get your opinion on the subject of part 8. What did you think?
This is the water, and this is the drink full and descend. The horse is the white of the eyes and dark within.
Mm-hmm. That says it all, doesn't it?
Fucking sense as the episode does. No, I mean, I'm not really going to revisit that episode until we get finished with the season, and I might go back and try to pick some stuff out. It was really a lot to take in, and a lot of people are going to have theories on it. I'm sure Cameron's seen thousands of different people's theories on this deal, so I'm not really gonna invest a lot of time into trying to figure out what's going on until like you said, maybe it'll connect later on.
My only thing is I wish that this part of episode 8 was part of the original concept of what Fire Walk With Me was going to be. Yeah, with the atom bomb and the bugs and all that. I would have loved to have seen portions of this episode as the opening of Fire Walk With Me, and then have that transition into Laura's story. I would have gladly given up the Teresa Banks stuff for that on the big screen to see that atom bomb scene. Of course, it wouldn't have been as cool in 1992 as they can do today with digital technology. But a lot of people in the earlier parts of the series was complaining about the special effects of some of the CGI. Well, obviously, we see where the money went. Yeah, it went to that, and it went to the Purple Ocean. Right. So. Right.
Yeah. But I like Jay. So the only reason, Jay, that I watched it a second time, I probably would have anyway, but was because I wasn't with my wife, and so she wanted to see it. I was kind of like, "Are you sure?" And we watched it, and she Jay, I think, shares your opinion, where she thought after the fact, she's like, David Lynch is sitting in his mansion right now, just laughing his ass off because, there's just a bunch of you nerds sitting around trying to figure out what this whole thing means, and it means nothing. She was joking, of course, but after that episode, there's a part of me that can't help but feel like she could be onto something.
But, people have been saying that since Wild at Heart, Eric.
That's true.
That he's been just sitting around making fun of everybody.
That is true. But in any case, like I said, I wanted to keep the part 8 discussion light because really, what can you we need to like get our thesis papers and our doctoral our dissertations ready to go to fully appreciate that.
I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can until it's all over. I mean,
right. It's very much an interesting concept. And let me just say too, I'm picking on it somewhat. I think it may even sound like I didn't like it. I actually did like it, and I liked it even more on the second watching. But even on the first watching, as much as my brain was struggling to comprehend as what it was seeing, it did occur to me like, holy cow, like I am watching art on TV. Like this is art. We talk about other shows being art or different concepts of art, in different mediums. I mean, David Lynch really did put art on our screen for Part 8. Because even if we're confused about the meanings about things, it really was a beautiful sequence of images and pictures and music and sounds that we saw. I thought so anyway. So from that perspective, I just liked the specialness of what I was seeing. To think, I will never see something like this in my life again. Or, not on TV and not in this way and not in this form. I had thought that Part 3 was that moment of my life. I did not realize that 5 parts later, I would be shown that I was wrong. And who's to say I may not be proved wrong again? But I did like it. It's a lot to take in. It's very dense. And like Jay was saying, and like you're saying, Cameron, I think seeing how it all is a part of the bigger whole is something I'm very much interested in.
Yeah, and just real quick, there's weird things in it too. Like the girl finds a penny on the ground, which of course has Abraham Lincoln in it, and then the guy who plays the main woodsman is known as one of the great Abraham Lincoln impersonators.
Right.
So it's like there's these weird parallels everywhere in this series.
Right. So. Right. David Lynch does like his connections like that. Although sometimes he calls them happy accidents. I mean, that may not have been intentional. Maybe that penny, just the penny itself, somehow plays a role later. And it's just a coincidence that it was Abraham Lincoln on it and the dude, who knows? I mean, we may never know.
The biggest happy accident of all Twin Peaks is Frank Silva's Bob.
Right. Exactly right. So on Sunday night, we got a more, if you can call it that, a traditional episode of Twin Peaks, but an exciting one. Because, much like Part 7 before Part 8, all the threads are starting to, we're having some things start to connect. We're starting to get some pieces come together. And that even happened further. We got to see, well, first off, the most important plot point was Jerry Horn appears to be okay, although he may not be. But Jerry Horn, he's still in the woods, but he's okay. So we know that.
Yeah, he hasn't cut his leg off yet, like the one-armed man.
Right. But we caught up with Dougie Jones Cooper, who's still kind of just in a blank state. Although, and I didn't realize it at the time, it occurred to me at the time I thought it was connecting to something else, but it just didn't until I started seeing the memes online of Audrey wearing the red shoes. And the woman in red shoes walking by. I didn't really make that connection. And so there's some theories out there now, or just, maybe hopeful people saying, well, we might have our clue as to what would wake Cooper up. But I don't know that that's true.
He never saw Audrey in those red shoes. She only wore them in the pilot, and she took them at school. He never talked to her until the second day.
And she wasn't wearing them on the second day?
No.
Huh.
So, I mean, yeah, people are always hopeful for this Audrey Cooper, magical romance. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
The fact that she hasn't even appeared yet, I am more and more concerned about the state we are going to find Audrey Horn in. That's my
Johnny Horn's funeral. That's where we get her.
So that's it. So that's the other thing. We got a snippet of Johnny Horn running through the house, slamming his head into a wall, much like Leland did, by the way.
And Cooper, because he's wearing Cooper's pajamas. The blue ones.
I didn't realize that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But I feel like the fact we haven't seen Audrey yet is troublesome.
Who cares?
Move
it on.
Again, I'm not like these people that are like, oh my God, where's Audrey? She'll be in when she's in, but still heck, we've seen Major Briggs' wife, which was the other major sequence in the show. And while it didn't move me like the scenes with the log lady did, it did move me somewhat, because it just seemed kind of like a natural continuation of the vision that Major Briggs talked about in in the first series, and we got a continuation of that. And I'm thinking that my theories that Bobby is somehow helping the drug runners are misplaced. That was originally my inkling, just remembering how Bobby was, but I really think Bobby Briggs is okay. Like, I think, I could be wrong, but I think that the idea here is that Major Briggs' vision really has come to pass, and that Bobby figured it all out, and he's a good guy now.
Well, you forgot one of the big points that a lot of people are not talking about online is that when Diane checks her phone, right? So the doppelganger sends a text to her in lower and whatever you ever call that thing, the word, it's not capitalized, but when
lowercase, right?
Lowercase. But when she gets the text, it's all in caps. So obviously it got sent to a second person who then forwarded it to her phone. But every time she gets on her phone and looks and sees something like that as a message, if you notice what is playing underneath it, but the Wyndham Earl theme music. And I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen, because I went back and looked at the end of season 2 when Bob kills Earl, right? And I will take his soul, and the soul comes out of his head. Right after that is when the doppelganger shows up. So I'm thinking that the Lodge mixed Earl and Cooper's doppelganger together, because I don't know if Diane's working with him or not, but there's a reason why there's so little Bad Lamenti music being used in this show. And in this episode, we get 4 tracks by him. Right. Even though the end credits only say 1, we get 4 tracks. We get a couple from Firewalk with Me, we get Laura's theme, and we get Wyndham Earl's theme. And we get the Dick Tremaine theme, believe it or not, right before the show has Andy and Lucy, which is really funny. But yeah, so I'm thinking there's going to be an Earl reference coming up. I think that because we got the bonsai tree in the opening episode in the New York thing. I don't know. I'm getting really nervous. We got 9 episodes left, and the pace that this show goes, I don't know if they're going to be able to do what they want to do in 9 episodes. Maybe if they had 18 more, I'd be happier.
Well, what concerns me is people kept like when the show was being produced, a couple of times when people were in interviews, they made a comment about 2 seasons. And I'm wondering if there isn't going to be another season after. And I don't mean that David Lynch is going to go make more. I think he already made it, but that there will be additional episodes held back after the fact. I don't know this. This is purely my guess, but there's a part of me that wonders if that is what is going to happen.
Well, see, I thought they were
piss me off.
I thought they were going to split it up. I thought we were going to get 9 episodes now and then 9 episodes next year.
Right.
But obviously they're not doing that. And I would be kind of ticked off if they just ended it now and I had to wait a year.
Right. I agree. But I mean, again, a lot can happen in 9 episodes. And you have to think that if the next 9 episodes are more like parts 7 and 9, I can roll with that. The story's moving along, things are happening, we're making connections. We're not table setting anymore. Right. We're not watching Cooper like spit his coffee out. But
remember the next 2 episodes, 10 coming up, is Laura is the One. Yeah. That's interesting. And the one after that, the one that they're going to see at Comic-Con, is There's Fire Where You Are Going. That makes me nervous. Those 2 titles make me nervous.
I gotta cut in here. Cameron, when does Comic-Con officially start?
What?
When does Comic-Con officially start?
I don't know. It's the end of July.
Okay.
I would think. Well, hold on. If you're saying this, the next one's 10, so 16, and you're saying that
11.
We will see Comic-Con's. I think it's next week.
It airs. It's going to play for them on Friday, and we get it on Sunday.
Yeah, so it looks to me like Comic-Con is probably the 20th through the 23rd.
Right.
Then.
Okay.
So next week is really when all that's going to happen.
Right.
But Jay, you've been silent, sir. What did you think of the latest installment?
I'm glad we were back on track with the regular style of the show.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good episode. We got a little bit of a clarity, I guess, with whatever that little thing is. They find the note, there at the end, where
right.
Hawk and was it Bobby? What's the guy's name?
Mhm.
Yeah, Bobby. Yes, it was Bobby's dad, Major Briggs.
Yeah, Bobby's able to break that device open. But what did you guys think of Tim Roth and his little role?
I liked his accent. I'm not sure what the accent was supposed to be, but I very much liked it.
I'm just happy he's not Philip Jeffries. A lot of people were speculating that. One other quick thing I just want to throw out is I think it's hilarious, absolutely hilarious, that David Lynch doesn't give a flying F. That when Bobby Briggs is out there breaking that damn little metal container,
I know what you're gonna say.
We see the sawmill right there.
I don't know. This is a testament to our friendship, I think, Cameron. But when that shot first came out, I was like, "Holy shit! I bet Cameron's losing his mind right now."
Well, I couldn't believe it because all you had to do was go maybe 50 yards back and you wouldn't have seen it.
Right.
So what the hell?
Come on, drop that F-bomb, buddy. Long day at work.
No. But yeah, no, I just
don't get me flagged, Cameron.
Exactly. I don't want that. Yeah, but I'm just like, what? Why are you doing that, Lynch? I mean, like it's not like trying to hide it behind a tree. I mean, it's full on right there.
Yeah.
There's the sawmill.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I did like that. But yeah, no, I liked it. I thought it was good. I did. Actually, here's something else I haven't seen too much talking about. The fact that we got a repeat of a band.
Yeah.
I thought was interesting. And I wonder, is that just, Lynch only had so many musicians and he liked different tracks of their music, and so that's kind of where he's putting them? Or I wonder.
Yeah. And they're wearing the same clothes that they were in episode 4. At the end of episode 4, it has Albert and Cole talking, and he says, I know where basically Diane drinks. And then we cut to the Roadhouse and we get that performance, but there's no scene. It's just the performance and the credits. And now we get a scene with them on stage. So again, are we jumping back and forth in time? Because Bill Hastings writes down, I believe, 9/29 when he circles the Major's picture.
Yeah.
And then you have Hawk and Sheriff Truman talking about that 10/2, 10/1, 10/2 is a couple days from now.
If it was 9/29, wouldn't that be 10/1
right?
Be 2 days?
But some people are saying he wrote 9/20.
Oh.
And then the fact that his blog, if you go to his real blog, it was updated November of 2015. So does he get out of jail? Or someone else updating it? And the other thing is that we now have a date, because if you go by the blog, it's 2015. So that's the year this takes place.
Right.
So
anyway,
it's weird how I need a website to tell me what year this show that takes place. But
I also thought, and Jay, do you know what we're referring to? Did you go and check out Bill Hastings' website?
No, I did not.
Yeah, the website of, like, what was it called, Cameron? It's like Searching for the Zone or something.
Search for the zone.com. Jay, you'll love it. It looks like a 1997 website.
Right, and that's what I was going to mention. I didn't understand that. Like, why is it this old style web? No one's made a website like that since like 1998.
So does it work?
Well, yeah, it was created.
It works.
The website was supposedly created in 1997, but so was Dougie.
And that's the thing. I was a little disappointed because I feel like I'm getting nothing right in this new series. I just believed, and that's the thing. Like, I feel like everything I've assumed about the new series, and again, I was coming from, I thought, a logical place, but I need to throw logic out the friggin' window. I thought the idea of Dougie being manufactured was just merely that Doppel Cooper kind of maneuvered a guy like Cooper into place to substitute for himself. Like, I didn't think he did some kind of judo magic and created his own entity, and that seems to be where we're going. And similarly, I did not think we were going to have, like, space aliens in the damn show, but it kind of seems like that's what the Giant is. I also didn't think we'd have time travel or parallel universes, and it also seems like we might have that too.
Well, maybe,
but I think we've got all of that.
We've
got everything that you just said. It's all there.
I think they're setting it up that Major Briggs is the one that put the diary pages in the bathroom. I think that's going to happen. I also think that the show is probably going to end now with Albert getting married to the coroner.
Yes. By the way, that was the other thing. That was not a major plot thing, but I did want to touch on that. That finally we found a match for Albert, because I have loved that coroner character since the beginning. And the fact that she got a smirk out of Albert, who he normally can't tolerate anybody, I thought was fantastic. That was it was a high point for me in the episode as an Albert fan. Anyway,
I was watching a review of this episode, and it was like I don't know, one lady in her 20s and one guy in his 40s talking, and the lady in her 20s goes, "I don't understand. Lucy wanted the beige chair. Why did she order the red chair? That's ridiculous." And the guy said to her, "You haven't been married for like 20 years. You'll understand."
Yeah.
The compromise. I thought that was a great little scene. It was cute.
There's what's as a testament to just what you're describing there, the 20 versus 40-year-old thing. I saw some people online debating that it was really Lucy was using reverse psychology to get the chair she really wanted. And I thought the answer was much simpler. It was no. She realized Andy wanted the other one, and she's getting him the one he wanted.
Exactly.
Like it's there's nothing. That's all it is. There's nothing secret about it. I think I don't know that it's reverse psychology. I think it is what we saw it to be. They're
not deep characters.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Lucy's brain cognition is only goes so deep.
I thought it was. I thought it was. I really loved episode 7, and I really liked this episode. And I mean, I really did like 8 as well, but it's a whole different thing. And I think it was really cool to kind of sandwich that kind of artsy episode in between 2 very good episodes, 7 and 9. Yeah. And this gives me. I mean, like I had hope for the whole series, but I really do feel like, I know this is generic to say, I feel like things are really coming together, and we're going to move full forward. I just want to know, Eric, the shots we've seen of Cooper in the suit driving the car, is this the good Cooper back and he's on his way to Twin Peaks for some reason, or is this the bad Cooper seeing Dougie on the media, on the TV, knowing, oh, that's what he looks now, changes his style to go back to Twin Peaks to impersonate Dougie?
Yeah, that's probably what it's gonna be.
Because you've advanced that theory before, and at this point, like I said, I don't know that I trust my own judgment as far as to predict anything about this show. But Doppel Cooper, I don't think it's just dirtiness. I think he legitimately is tan. Like he's like an outdoor. He just seems like he's got olive skin from tanning. The Cooper pictures and scenes you're referencing from that trailer,
right?
It looked more like our Cooper. His skin was still white. He didn't look tan or dirty. Now, again, it wouldn't be dirty if he's trying to emulate the regular Cooper. He would clean up, but that was not the vibe I got. And I feel like too that because of the developments of this episode, people are getting closer to discovering. I mean, again, the brothers Fusco are sending Dougie Cooper's prints for comparison, and you have to think that that's going to fire off a flag that that Gordon and Albert are going to see, and it's going to be like, what the hell? He's here in North Dakota. Wait, now he's in Vegas, and especially depending on like how many days they that transpire. Each episode's been roughly a day, though, right?
So was the original series,
right? Right. So, you have to think that if it's the next part where that results in something, I think there's a certain question of, could he have made it that far? I don't know. I think people are getting closer to Cooper, and I think that I don't know. I'd like, maybe I'm just hoping, because Jesus Christ, if he's freaking Dougie Jones the whole time, I'm gonna be mad. I really am. I am gonna be pissed off.
I just want to know what's going on with the Horns, because we have Ben Horn over there flirting with Ashley Judd. We have Jerry Horn in the office in the woods. We have Sylvia, his estranged wife, apparently. Trying to find Johnny, and Johnny, beats his head in the wall with. You got the Snoqualmie Falls, and you have President Eisenhower picture in between his body on the ground.
Yeah.
So where's Audrey, and then where's Richard Horn? Right. So we have all the Horns scattered right now.
Right.
We haven't seen Richard since he ran over that kid. So I'm getting a little nervous about his placement in this stuff. And what's going on with this Red character, and why was he flirting with Shelley?
Like I said, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I still think that was just him in the bar making the old finger guns at the hot chick with her cadre of lady friends.
Yeah.
But,
And what about James and Jessica Zor? I mean, it's like, when are we ever going to get back to any of these characters? Or is Lynch just treating this sort of like little vignettes? Like, okay, instead of doing a whole subplot, let's just kind of come in and visit this character for one scene. Okay, good. Now we move on. This seems like the big story is Cooper, and everybody else is getting the little vignettes, and you have to remember everybody. Like, for instance, someone said to me, will Dr. Jacoby's Dr. Amp will he be taken over by a woodsman and say something over the speaker?
That's a heck of a theory.
Oh, wow.
I've heard that. I've heard that there might be, I don't know what this is insane. The idea that they might try to set off a nuke inside the Black Lodge, which is like, I don't see how 9 more episodes could build us up to that. This isn't Lost season 5.
Yeah. I appreciate the reference.
Cooper beating the bomb. Come on, you son of a bitch.
I don't know. I truly don't. It's a good thing and a bad thing, but I feel like the show has defeated me. I normally feel like I've got a good sense of, like, I can make some pretty reasonable predictions, but I have been outmatched completely and utterly by this new series of Twin Peaks. And I'm happy to relent and say, congrats, you win.
No, you're not, Bruce. You know why? You know why? It's because you're stupid. How do you feel about that? I'm just kidding.
But this show is not going to influence any other TV show in the near future. Because only David Lynch has the clout to pull this off.
Yep.
What Jay and I were talking, because Jay was catching up on Fargo season 3, and I was describing Fargo season 3 as like a more palatable general audience version of Twin Peaks, because I don't know whether you watched Fargo, Cameron, but
I've seen the first 2 seasons. I love it.
Okay. Season 3 has some, again, trippy and surrealistic take on new meaning in light of Twin Peaks season 3. But Fargo season 3 definitely had some weird, trippy episodes this most recent season.
And it's over, right? This is it? This is the end? There's only 3 seasons?
Well, I heard that. I heard that as a rumor. I heard that Noah Hawley, who I believe is the showrunner for Fargo, if nothing else, I think he said that they're on a hiatus, because he said he's out of ideas. He's like, doing these, it's like takes a lot out of me. I don't know what the next season would be.
I'm okay with that.
Right. I'd be okay with that
too. Season 3 is my favorite.
Because they all end.
Really?
I mean, they all end. It's like,
To take a quick Fargo diversion, Jay and Cameron, I don't know. Even though I liked season 3, and I will never turn down a season of television that has Ray Wise in its hollowed episodes. However, I was the least satisfied by season 3 of Fargo, and I kind of felt like the ending was, I don't want to say a cop-out because that seems wrong, but it was nothing. It was, the ending to me, it's like it was like building, and then the way it ended was just, it almost seemed to me kind of like Noah Hawley was like, I don't know. Okay, this, I
mean,
that
there was resolution, but I don't really want to spoil a whole lot for these guys.
Right.
But it really wasn't anything else left to do at that point.
Right.
It all kind of worked its way out.
Well, I think he was in the trap that these shows constantly find themselves in, which, Breaking Bad might be the sole exception that, able to get out of it. But I think he kind of stopped being able to top himself. Fargo season 1, fantastic, kept topping itself in every way. The characters, the situations, what they were doing, even did a little time jump at the end. It was fantastic. Season 2, kind of a prequel, did some different things. Still, to me, season 2, I think, of Fargo is probably my favorite. After having seen all 3 now, I think season 2 is my hands down favorite. Just lots of exciting stories, bigger tale, more characters. And it escalated, and the final episodes were mind blowing. Lots of good action, lots of cool stuff going on. and I think for season 3, lots of good material, lots of good characters. I think Nikki Swango, I can't think of the actress's name all of a sudden, but I think she probably the runaway character of the season. Great character. I also think that the quote unquote villain, also great, but I just don't know that it ever quite reached the highs of season 1 or season 2. It other than those scenes like I'm alluding to, the kind of trippy surrealistic stuff they did, which again I found really interesting. It's just apples to apples with the big gunfight at the hotel in the second season, and the friggin' UFOs or whatever the hell those were. I just don't think it quite compared.
I think the problem with Fargo is the same thing with American Horror Story, is that it's one season's a one and done. And then they have to come up with a whole new thing. Whereas something like Breaking Bad or The Shield or anything like that is following one continuous story. So you can kind of say, okay, in this season he's going to get from here to here, and then this season he's going to get from here to here. Whereas to just come up with a whole new concept, a whole new tale, and make it as compelling as the last season. Yeah, that's like coming up with 3 great epic movies in 3 years.
Right.
It's difficult. It's definitely more difficult than just continuing on.
And that's why some seasons I'm not saying with Fargo or picking on a show, but let's just say if you were a fan of American Horror Story, I could see somebody saying, oh, I have seasons 1 and I have seasons 4. Those are the ones I like, because you don't need 2 and 3 because they're their own isolated tales. Whereas if you have something like Breaking Bad, you kind of need the whole series, even if you don't like season 3 or whatever, because in order to tell the whole tale.
Yeah. You can't just kind of say, oh, season 4 of Breaking Bad, you can in isolation like it and say the events that transpired in that season are your favorite. And again, I picked season 4 on purpose, but you're right in that it's one piece of a larger story. It's kind of hard to isolate them from everything.
Although the great thing about Dexter is that you can just get rid of seasons 5 through 8 and just keep 1 through 4. Is
that true, Jay? I know you're the Dexter fan. What do you think?
No, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Once you get rid of what's her name, Julie Benz, show's over.
Darla.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
In fact, I really did real quick. I think for Dexter, I think after season 4, they should have done it like The Shield, where after season 4, season 5 he gets found out who he is, and then season 6 he's on the run, and then season 7 they capture him. And perfect. But they didn't go that route.
They were milking it for money. That's the problem. Yeah,
and that's the other thing about milking this for money. It's like, going back to Lindelof and Carlton Cuse with Lost. ABC wanted them to take that 9-10 seasons, and they said, no, we're doing 6 and we're done.
Well, and they. First off, I do plan on having a Lost episode of this, probably more than one, because I've been talking about Jay. I want to do some Lost. I'd love to rewatch Lost, but that's like 115 episodes, so we need to plan for that. But I would just say that with regard to that, their decision, they always joke about it. They were kind of like, okay, we knew that there was a beginning, a middle, and an end of Lost. We always had an idea of what the end was. Again, there's always that debate about what they knew and how much was planned. Whether they knew there was going to be some kind of, giant fight on the side of a, rocky beach, while the island's falling apart around them. I don't think they knew that, but I think they had the general strokes of what the ending would be. But in season 3, an episode that is, I think, universally maligned. Most people hate it. On rewatch, I actually think it's not as bad as people say. But there's an episode called Stranger in a Strange Land. It basically tells the story of how Jack got his tattoos, which were sort of mentioned in dialogue like once or twice, and that's it. But Damon Lindelof has been quoted many, many times saying, I think when we got to the point of well, here's how Jack got his tattoos, we realized we needed to go to ABC and be like, there's only so much of this we can do. If you want to start having the story of how, John Locke took his dry cleaning to get, fixed or whatever, remember, we need to negotiate an end here.
And ABC was kind of hesitant about it, so they stuck their characters in animal cages. And they said, well, they can't go anywhere until we make a decision.
Right. Well, and so season 3 of Lost was actually an experimental season because it understanding that like Lost was like their ratings were always really great and everything when the episodes ran continuously. And they knew, because that was sort of the advent of binge watching on DVD, kind of before Netflix rose to prominence, that running episodes week after week, new episodes, like just, they were building audience, lots of good stuff. So what they tried to do was they took the first 6 episodes of the season and aired them in the fall. And then they figured out kind of like, I think it was at the end of January, they picked back up again and ran straight through. The idea being, we'll do this little mini pod. They said tell one complete story at the beginning of season 3. I disagree that it is one complete story. Yeah. But that was the idea, to do that and then run straight through, starting with episode 7 all the way to the end. People hated that. The big gap they hated sort of the darkness at the beginning of season 3, which, by the way, I think was necessitated by the story. I don't pick on that, but clearly they were trying to do different things with the show to kind of account for the serialized nature and everything. And that was, I think, also what led ABC to changing it.
It's fine too when you watch it on the Blu-rays and stuff. It doesn't call attention to itself at all. I think it calls attention to itself because you're waiting week by week, and then you have a 3-month break.
Right. What I always like to do when I've gotten people, like I've rewatched Lost several times now, and I've tried to get new people into it, and I always try to provide like historical context for them, which is particularly in like season 4. So, the episode, I think 7 of season 4, I always tell people, all right, you need to understand, when this episode aired, there was a writer's strike. We were not sure that this would pick up again until like next season, if ever. And so it's like, you got to understand, like, I was hyperventilating. I didn't know what was going to happen. And that's why season 4 seems more action packed, I think, than other seasons, because there's only 14 episodes, 15 episodes.
There were supposed to be 16.
Yeah, well, no, the final 3 seasons are supposed to be 17. Oh, no, you're right. It was supposed to be 16, 16, and 16. And then the final 2 seasons were 17 and 17 because of the writer's strike. Kind of, they lost some hours there.
But why do you think with the writer's strike, real quick, why do you think that Heroes came back and just completely flopped and failed, and but Lost came back stronger than ever?
I would argue because Lost always had a strong central premise, whereas Heroes was always just, we want to be better than Lost. Yeah. I would argue. And by the way, if I sound bitter, I am bitter. It always pissed me the hell off that, Heroes was announced as like, oh, hey, if you're unsatisfied with shows that just string you along and don't answer questions, here comes Heroes, where we're going to answer your questions and we're going to tell like story. Like, fuck you. Like, again, there's a reason why they had one good season, because they only had one season's worth of good ideas. And even that was driven by, let's just be better than Lost. It was never about, oh, we have this core idea of a show that we think will be awesome. Lost got stronger at the end, I think, Cameron, because at that point they knew where they had to go. I think seasons 4, 5, and 6 stand as some of the strongest seasons. And by the way, season 5 is my absolute favorite.
I wouldn't put 6 in there.
Oh, that's, well, fair to say.
But 5 is one of the greatest series of television ever.
Yes. But I just mean that, like, at that point, they knew where they were going. There was a momentum. The characters were driven. You're right that season 6 sort of, like, wasted some of that momentum with a lot of nonsense.
Temple, anyone?
Yeah. Well, and the frustrating thing is the Temple had been mentioned since season 3. And, I kept thinking, like, oh, man, we're finally going to get to see the Temple. It's going to be great. And then, we got what we got, and not a whole lot of explanation about it either. So, but anyway, this is going off onto a whole other tangent, which again, if you get me talking about Lost, Cameron, that's just going to be the rest of the show.
I'm letting people know that what you got coming up in the weeks ahead.
Yes, no, thank you, absolutely. I do. I like Lost a great deal. I have a great passion for it. But the other topic I wanted to talk about tonight was the subject of spinoffs, and kind of the clarion call for this show is, TV that's worth your time. We're going to talk about that with relation to spinoffs, but we're going to talk about many different kinds of spinoffs, because honestly, I'm a TV geek from way back, and I've always loved the ideas of spinoffs and crossovers and shows doing those cool kinds of things. Like, as I've mentioned, I've been rewatching Cheers. I've mentioned that in previous episodes, and I recently learned, I never knew, that St. Elsewhere, the dramatic, hospital set series that also was on NBC, once crossed over with Cheers. Basically, there's an episode of St. Elsewhere where a few of the doctors are having a drink at Cheers, and Carl is there, and Norm is there,
Are you saying that Cheers takes place in an autistic kid's mind?
I am saying that. Yes, thank you, Cameron. That's
very
very apt of you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's
it's happening in Orc's head.
For the for the uninitiated, what Cameron is referring to is the fact that
spoilers.
This is a spoiler, so I will warn you. It's a pretty big one. If you ever want, first of all, St. Elsewhere is not even available on DVD, which is mystifying to me. It's one of the.
Wait, time out. Jake, can you get a real talk?
Real talk.
You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Copyright.
Sorry. Yeah, watch out. We're gonna get flagged.
Everybody flags.
Yeah, I am shocked that it's not available because Denzel's in it.
Right. So St. Elsewhere is considered to be one of the first premier prestige TV shows. They talk about Hill Street Blues, they talk about St. Elsewhere, they talk about Moonlighting. These are some of the shows that really started to break the mold of kind of the old freeze frame end of your TV show type series. It's not even available on DVD. But again, spoiler alert. St. Elsewhere's ending seems to reveal that the events of St. Elsewhere occurred in the imagination of a little autistic boy, and I forget is Tommy Westphal, Tommy something. Basically, the series ends, and the final shot is there's a little boy in a hospital, and the woman's like, "Oh, Tommy, you and your imagination or something," and Tommy's looking into a snow globe that has St. Ignatius Hospital. Basically revealing that what we've just spent 6 seasons or whatever it was watching was all the imagination of this little kid. But the joke Cameron is making is that St. Elsewhere actually crossed over with a ton of with several shows. But not just that, the shows it crossed over with also crossed over with other shows. So there's a fantastic website out here that covers this. It's called Pubala.com. It's actually where I did some of the research for this episode. But basically, St. Elsewhere, since it crossed over with Cheers, and St. Elsewhere, this is a logic problem, right? Since it crossed over with Cheers, then Cheers would also be in the imagination of this little autistic boy. Well, St. Elsewhere also crossed over with Homicide: Life on the Street. So that would mean Homicide is in the imagination of this autistic boy. Homicide: Life on the Street also crossed over with Law and Order, which has it has 3 spinoffs. Again, one of the Homicide characters, Munch, became a series regular on Special Victims Unit. Again, it's like this huge spider web because there's more than this. There's all these different shows that touch it. The character of Munch appeared on the X-Files.
Holy shit!
Which means that the X-Files would also be in the imagination.
So basically, if St. Elsewhere has chlamydia, they're all getting it.
Yes. And for the Arrested Development fans out there, while this one is a bit more tongue-in-cheek, Detective Munch also appeared on Arrested Development towards the end of season 3. So that also would be in the imagination of this autistic boy. Again, this is largely a joke, but it's true. We don't
have anything against people who are autistic or who have Asperger's. We're nice people here, right?
Oh yeah, but yeah, sorry. I don't keep name dropping autistic because it says some derogatory. I'm just saying the little boy, he was an autistic boy and he was in a hospital and he apparently imagined the whole show in his head, and it's interesting. And that's just one bit of little geeky kind of spin-off stuff that I find super fascinating. Shows don't do spin-offs as much anymore, and when they do, they're actually pretty serious business and they're usually quite good. And so the first 2 shows, I'm sorry if I take any wind out of your sails, Jay, but just in terms of spin-offs coming out and not just being pale imitators or bad versions of the original, Better Call Saul and Frasier, I think, are largely believed to be equal to, or maybe even in some cases better than the shows they originated from.
Don't forget about the Tortellis.
Yes. Cheers did have another spinoff called the Tortellis. Well, and that's the thing. Not even focused on Carla. It was focused on her husband, played by Dan Hedaya.
Yeah, I love it.
Moving out to Las Vegas with his blonde airhead wife, who, by the way, was Louis Tully's kind of female friend in the original Ghostbuster. The one who is like, Louis, I'm going home.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Bruce.
That was beautiful. That's my shot-for-shot remake of that character.
I thought she looked familiar. That must be where I remember her from.
Yeah. But yes, Cameron, and he's joking, of course, because that show was terrible and it lasted like half a season. It was I
watched every episode when it was on.
I am sure you did. I have no doubt that that's true.
See, the thing is, the time we grew up in, like, this was a really common thing.
Yeah.
If it's successful, they're going to make a spinoff of it one way or another. You know, either it ends and there's a crossover show, or there's a complete spinoff, different show altogether.
Right. And you know, the thing, and one of the reasons I wanted to do some research on this topic is because, and this is going back, I don't know how old our viewers are, all 8 of them at the moment, but the people who will watch this video, I don't know how old you guys are, what you are aware of, but All in the Family, you know, the famous show rather, starring Carol O'Connor. You know, at the time there were things All in the Family did which I don't think you'd see on network TV today. Archie used to say "God damn it," for example, which you can't say even now on network broadcasts. But All in the Family, similar to the joking about St. Elsewhere, actually has a giant spider web of spinoffs that come off of it. So All in the Family was the original show. And on All in the Family, the characters of the Jeffersons originated. They were black neighbors of Archie Bunker. And in many ways, George Jefferson was essentially the black version of Archie Bunker. And, you know, when he moved up to the east side, you know, when he left Queens, I guess is where they lived, you know, to open his chain of dry cleaning stores, that's the subject of the Jeffersons. The Jeffersons also had a spinoff. I forget, was their housekeeper, and I forget her name. That was the one show. I couldn't find that one.
That's not 227, is it? No, that was another. No, that was another thing.
Yeah, but anyway, the Jeffersons
itself
had a spinoff, which, again, that spinoff died, and their housekeeper came back, and she just kind of rejoined the show. Another spinoff of All in the Family. This one, not like the Jeffersons were characters on All in the Family and were there for a few seasons, then got their own spinoff. Maude, starring B. Arthur, is another spinoff of All in the Family, but I think that Cousin Maude was sort of always intended to have her own show because she really appeared in like one episode of All in the Family, and then her second appearance is basically like a backdoor pilot for her show. Like Archie and Edith appear at the beginning, and then it's basically like an episode of Maude, and you meet Maude and her husband and all the various shenanigans that go on with their lives, and then again, she had her own show that went several years. There is, and again, this goes to a question that's worth debating, Jay, Cameron, Ork. Archie Bunker's Place is, how do you define Archie Bunker's Place? Some call it a spinoff. I might call it a sequel show because All in the Family ran 9 seasons and effectively ended. It actually has a rather nice ending.
Okay.
But Archie Bunker's Place picks up, and it kind of focuses more on Archie's, you know, life running the bar. But it still does have scenes in his house and with his life and family.
Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Okay, so you answering this question will answer this other question.
Okay.
Is Three's a Crowd a spinoff or a sequel?
I have the same questions about that. I would call it a sequel.
It is a sequel.
Yeah, that's what I would call it.
Yeah, because a spin-off is like where you take a character and spin it off, right? Like into another direction. If you are following the same main character at another point after the fact, then I think it is a sequel.
So Three's a Crowd would be a sequel, and The Ropers would be a spinoff.
Correct.
Yes. Well, the reason why I think Archie Bunker's Place is muddy is because I think you're right, Cameron. You're right. It still follows Archie Bunker. However, it's kind of like it's a spinoff too, where, again, we're debating whether it is a spinoff. What I mean is that concept of where you have a spinoff where it just kind of takes a scenario that originated in the source show and like makes that the whole show. So in the final I think it was 3 seasons, 3 or 4 final seasons of Archie is when he of All in the Family is when he bought the bar. The set of the bar, the concept of Archie owning this bar, originated in the final few seasons of the original show. And Archie Bunker's Place was really a way of kind of just focusing more on that piece.
Yeah, I got it, Eric. I got it. You ready? I'm gonna take a page from today's movie talk. It's a soft reboot.
I'll buy that. I think
right.
That works.
That's what they say, right? It's about was it Force Awakens, that it's a sequel, but it's also kind of a reboot for people who haven't seen the originals.
And that's fair too, because Meathead and Gloria do appear.
I hate that horseshit terminology, man. It's such a cop out.
We got Dr. Claw here apparently with us. Oh, that's
it's fair. What's interesting is that then Archie Bunker's Place did have a spinoff called Gloria about Archie's daughter Gloria after allegedly her marriage with Michael, with Meathead, broke up.
Is this before or after she went to Africa?
See, and that's so. By the way, let me just say, there's another thing I don't like about all this stuff. Is it kind of bothers me when you have like characters and situations where simply because they can't get like the original actors back, they do like horrible things. So you could make and let me just say, the character of Edith Bunker died on Archie Bunker's Place. It's actually a really sad like hour of television. It's actually quite good. But it made sense because, Gene Stapleton really didn't want to be kind of doing it anymore. And she and Carol O'Connor were older. They were playing older people in their lives. It made sense that maybe one of them could die. The character of Gloria, who was married to Meathead, who was like, they were super in love and they were doing so great. We started learning at the end of All in the Family that there were problems in their marriage. But then by the time Archie Bunker's Place rolls around, I think they were still sort of together. I think they appeared once. But then after that, we learned that Meathead basically like had an affair and moved to a commune. And I don't know, like to me, it sort of like disrespects it disrespects the character somewhat, because I get that that Rob Reiner just didn't, he was, by that point I think he was already directing films and doing other things. So he's like, I don't want to be on TV anymore or whatever. But it kind of disrespects the history of the character where, we spent 8 seasons, because the final season of All in the Family, he and Gloria move away. I don't know. It just feels like it disrespects the character that like this guy who we liked, who he seemed like a pretty good family man, taking care of his wife, taking care of his kid. Like he just leaves that and moves into a commune. Like, the character was kind of a jerk sometimes, but I don't know that honors or respects like who he was.
Well, then how do you feel about something like Frasier, where all of a sudden it spins off and all of a sudden he has this dad and a brother and these characters that we've never even heard about in 10 seasons of Cheers?
Well, so because I've been watching Cheers, I actually think I am willing to suspend because I see the point you're making. The difference is that like we're taking an existing character we knew for many years and then sort of radically changing who he is. Like he himself saying like, oh, right. He just abandoned his wife and child and is living in a commune. Whereas with Frasier, we didn't. And again, I think I'm in season 7 of Cheers. I think we're almost on season 8. So far, we know Frasier is a psychiatrist. He's already with Lilith. They're actually getting ready to have the baby, Frederick. I already know. Again, I've watched Cheers before. I know all these characters. But we met Frasier's mom once, and at one point, Frasier actually does make a comment to Sam that his dad is dead. But when they kind of took the character of Frasier, I sort of felt like there was more they could do there because we didn't know a ton about Frasier's background.
Hang on, wait. Bruce, I'm going to let you finish. Well, this has got to be the best fucking bloody show about Twin Peaks I've ever seen in my fucking life. Jimmy Bridges, goddamn wanker.
I feel like we might be attempting to mock another YouTube program with that comment. But
Don't go there. Don't go there.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay away from that.
You son of a bitch.
All I'm saying though is like it seems to me, Cameron, like it's easily explainable that Frasier just didn't get into it really. I mean, and then I think when Sam does like appear on Frasier, he does make a comment, which is actually played for a pretty funny joke, where he's like, "Wait a second, you told me your dad was dead," and the audience laughs, and Frasier's dad shoots him a look, and again, Frasier just explains it away, and I buy it. He basically says something like, we were fighting at the time, and I was being melodramatic.
I think Frasier is a very, very good show. I just remember that when Cheers was over and then Frasier was about to start pretty soon after.
It was the following fall.
Yeah, I was not interested at all because of that. I was just like, well, now they're just giving him this new family we never even heard about. And I didn't even watch Frasier at all during the whole history it was on TV until I had an ex-girlfriend that had some of the DVDs of it, and I said, "Oh, let me just try a couple episodes." And I was like, "This is really funny. This is great." But I have to say that when you start throwing in curveballs like new histories, new families that I don't, where it's just like creating a new show as opposed to like an extension, like you're talking about Meathead leaving Sally Struthers. I didn't understand why Frasier would leave Lilith.
I thought they were already divorced at the end of Cheers.
I can't even remember.
Well, that was the thing. Like by the end of Cheers, it's like Frasier was gonna get married to Diane, then she didn't marry him, and then he started just hanging around the bar.
Right.
Then he met Lilith. Then he was dating Lilith. Then they got married. Now Lilith's pregnant. We haven't gotten to the point yet where they're like, divorce stuff is happening. But I do remember they get divorced on Cheers.
They do. Okay. I don't even remember that.
Because I remember in like the last season of the show, there's a Thanksgiving episode where like they basically do Thanksgiving at the bar because like Frasier and Frederick allegedly have nowhere to go, or they, their plans changed at the last minute or something. And so, a bunch of people just eat at the bar and, very special Cheers. But it was Frasier and Frederick, because part of the story was too that Lilith like ran off. I forget who it was she ran off with, like her therapist or something. I don't know. Again, it was another thing they kind of played up for laughs, and it was Cheers, so it kind of was funny. But that was effectively what happened there. And so I remember that the idea behind putting Frasier in Seattle was that they knew the creators of the show knew if it was anywhere near Boston, NBC was going to be like, hey, when can Cliff and Norm show up? Hey, what about having Sam drop by?
And they
so
did.
They were like, and they did. But if you think about it, like the characters from Cheers, with the exception of Lilith, which makes sense that she would recur in multiple occasions, only appeared once. Sam only appeared once. Diane actually might have appeared twice, if I remember correctly. But even there, Shelley Long was pretty funny, so I would take that. But Sam only appeared once. Woody only appeared once, and they even played up for kind of a joke that like, Woody and Frasier really should have nothing to do with one another. Like that was kind of the point of the episode, that like they have nothing in common. There's really no reason that these two people should be hanging out.
Well, if NBC had any guts, I'm calling you out now, NBC Universal. I want to see a 6-episode Cheers reunion on Netflix.
I actually was reading about this, and I'm pretty sure like none of them would do it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Kelsey Grammer is like, nope, not interested. I think that whatchamacallit,
do you realize how much money they would stand to make if they did it?
Oh, first off, I'm not saying the network wouldn't do it. I'm just saying the actors wouldn't do it.
NBC, and they don't give a fuck. So yeah.
Yeah. The actors wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't want to see those characters again?
No.
Not even for like 6 episodes?
Things need to stay dead, man. Like how often do things come back and they're decent? Like, I mean, how often does that happen?
I think Cheers has some pretty good writers behind it, though.
Yeah, I'm sort of mixed. Like I say, I was saying kind of at the top of the show, I think if they had a good idea and they had like the original writing staff and they had kind of a good concept for what it could be, I'm willing to give anything a try. They would never be able to recapture what it was, but maybe it would be a new thing. And like you say, maybe just like a 6-episode, just kind of a quick one and done type thing that could be interesting. Because, by now all the characters are much, much older. The places they'd be in their lives would make for different stories. But on the other hand, and this is me more siding with Jay, Cheers had 11 seasons. Really, like, again, they had a good shot. It's not like, in the prime of their lives, they were cut down.
Yeah, but Married with Children had 11 seasons and didn't get an ending. Cheers at least has an ending.
Well, did you guys like Rescue from Gilligan's Island? Is that for you?
Jay, did you like Booker?
No, I did not like Booker. I didn't care
Did you guys like Goosebumps?
Eric, Booker was the 21 Jump Street spinoff.
Oh wow!
Was
With
that a spinoff?
Richard Grieco. Yeah.
There was a spinoff of Hill Street Blues called Beverly Hills Bunts that was a half-hour comedy instead of an hour-long drama, starring Dennis Franz.
Did you just say Beverly Hills Cunspers?
Beverly Hills Bunts.
What a terrible name.
Hey, Orc, I got one for you. This is perhaps one of the greatest spinoffs of all time. You ready for this, Orc?
I'm opening up the Cameron Encyclopedia. Here
you're gonna get a flashback to your childhood. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Mama's Family.
Wait, was that a spinoff or what spun off of it?
No, it's a spinoff.
Do you have a mic you can drop right now?
Mary Tyler. What was it? The Carol Burnett show.
Carol Burnett show, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was a big Mama's Family fan.
Yeah.
Mama's Family was a show like I watched in syndication, kind of just like on Fox during the afternoons, but I came to like it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the great ones.
I mean, I watched that when I could, but there was a lot of Total Request Live with Carson Daly, and I had the hots for him back in the day. So,
and Married with Children never got an ending, but it did get a spinoff. Vinny and Bobby, Top of the Heap.
Yeah. Another spinoff with Matt LeBlanc that failed, by the way.
Yes. It failed, all right.
Yeah.
Well, Top of the Heap, and there was a few Married with Children that they tried to spin off, didn't they?
No, just that. It was just Top of the Heap. They should have done one with Marcy and what's his name?
See, I don't think that would have been good.
I think they actually filmed the episode and they saw how that played out to see. They didn't actually make another. Kind of like the way the farm episode was of The Office.
Yeah. It was kind of just like an episode. It was an episode of Married with Children, but it was really about Matt LeBlanc and his dad. They went into Al's store at the beginning, and that was it. That was kind of like the connection or something.
Well, I think Kelly was in there too.
Yeah, because she was dating Matt LeBlanc.
Oh, that was okay. That's right.
Yeah.
By the way, let me just note, I'm actually not even full through all of the All in the Family spinoffs. There's actually one remaining.
What?
So just and one final note about Gloria, which starred Sally Struthers as kind of her character. Kind of, she's now single. She tells her son Joey, I believe. She now works in a vet clinic, and Burgess Meredith is her boss. So Rocky's trainer, the legend, and the Penguin, the legendary Burgess Meredith was on this show with her. And Gloria actually might have made it 2 seasons. I don't think she was one and done. I think it was 2 seasons, but still, that was a failure. But there's one more. There was a show that really was not really connected to the other shows, but for the location. There was a show called 704 Hauser Street, which was Archie and Edith's address in Queens. And it basically, the only way it's a spinoff is the fact that it takes place in Archie and Edith's house. It starred John Amos, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Of Good Times fame. And I forget, there's a number of interesting people in the cast. Maura Tierney, I think that might have been her first role. Maura Tierney, later of ER fame and various movies and
News Radio.
There you go. News Radio is probably the big one there. And I believe that Joey Stivic, Gloria's son, grandson of Archie Bunker, made an appearance in the first episode of 704 Hauser. Again, not the same actor, I don't believe, but the character appeared. But again, that didn't even make it a season. I think that only went like 6 episodes before they canned it. But
never even heard of that one.
It's interesting to note. Check out that Pubula site. You'll spend hours there.
Oh yeah. So what was the total on that? It was about 6?
Well, so let's see. Jeffersons, which had its own spinoff, Maude, Archie Bunker's Place, Gloria, 704 Hauser, and I honestly feel like there could be another one I'm missing, but I'm not sure.
Did you say Good Times?
Was Good Times? I don't think Good Times was officially. It was made by whatchamacallit?
Norman Lear.
Yeah, it was made by Norman Lear, but I don't think it was officially a spinoff, unless it was a spinoff of one of the other shows, like a spinoff of Maude or the Jeffersons. Do you know?
Facts of Life is a spinoff of Good Times. I know that.
No, it's a spinoff of Different Strokes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Mrs. Garrett was the
I get those mixed up.
Girls, girls, girls.
Hey, Eric, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life.
Yeah,
By the way,
yes, Alan Thicke wrote it.
So we were talking about Deadwood earlier. And
are you connecting Deadwood to the facts of life? Please go ahead.
I am, and I'll tell you how I'm doing it because I was shocked. I didn't realize it. So on Deadwood, so first off, so on Deadwood there is a character. She's got like cerebral palsy, and Al Swearingen, delightful owner of the Gem Saloon, keeps calling her Gimp. He treats her like shit, but he's sort of nice to her in a in kind of his way. And I thought, God, she seems really familiar to me. And I only realized later because I was doing some reading on the show that is the character of
Blair's
Jerry
cousin.
from Facts of Life. Yes, the
Oh, my
handicapped character on the Facts of Life, the one that Family Guy made a reference where it was like. Yeah, she does for comedy what Jerry did for comedy on the Facts of Life, and they basically had a funny joke, and then it was like
in Friday the 13th Part 6. It all comes back to Friday the 13th.
I'm sure there's a way of making.
That's tomorrow.
6 degrees of All in the Family to Friday the 13th.
I'm sure there's a way to do it.
I'll just throw this out here. I think I'm sure there'll be other stuff that comes to my mind eventually, but to me, when I think spinoff, successful spin-off that is a show that not only stands on its own, is so great that it may take down the original show, even though I'm such a fan of the original show. Angel.
I agree with you.
Disagree.
Ooh.
I love Buffy, but there are moments in seasons 3 and seasons 4 of Angel where you think this might be better.
So if you look at Buffy and actually, Jay, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say maybe at that time when that was on, it may have been better than what Buffy was, but the earlier seasons of Buffy,
I tend to agree with Jay that if you were so let me say this: Buffy seasons 2 and 3 are quite possibly just some of the best television ever made. Like really good, really tight, like dramatic, kind of cry your eyes out, grit your teeth, like just really good dramatic TV. However, I have maintained, and I will continue to maintain, the culmination in both time, but also just in everything, of the Joss Whedon Buffy and Angel universe is Angel Season 5. That season for me is like everything I want all wrapped in one nice little bow. The chemistry between James Marsters and David Boreanaz, Joss Whedon himself has said, it took him, however long it was that the shows were all on together, like 8 years, 9 years, however long it was. It took him that long to find his couple that worked. The couple that belonged together was Angel and Spike.
And it all comes down to who would win in a fight, caveman or spaceman.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you, Cameron.
They said on the commentary that the writer's room spent 8 hours discussing that.
It feels like it. Yeah. There's a point there. Like, I wish there were more bloopers on Angel Season 5 because I feel like there's one scene where like David Boreanaz gets right in James Marsters' face.
Yeah.
He's like screaming so loud. I just have to think like they could not have gotten through that in one take. Like there were multiple takes of this because they're arguing about the friggin' spaceman versus caveman.
And I just think that Angel, I mean, I know people will disagree with me on this, but I think it has one of the greatest endings to a show I've ever seen.
Angel?
Yeah.
Angel's ending pisses me off, but I guess.
No, I love it because.
Okay, wait, Cameron, explain your climax. Go for it.
What? So Buffy ends like with like a real ending, right? I mean, it's, for the most part, except for Anya, there's a happy ending for everybody. Everybody gets to move on and begin another day with their life.
Yeah.
Angel, listen, there's no hope here, okay? Every human character, Wesley, Gunn, they're dead. They're gone. The only people who are left are Spike, Illyria, who's basically taken over, what's her name's, Fred's body, and Angel, and they're in the middle of an alley, Gunn's about to just get killed in this alleyway, and Angel is this whole thing is he's an alcoholic who is always repenting, will repent for his sins and what he's trying to do, and so the fact that he just goes out swinging. I mean, even if he survives, he's just always going to have to fight. Yeah. And the fact that he signed away his Shanshu thing or whatever, so he cannot ever become human.
Right.
It's just the only people who are left are the Immortals, and who knows if they're even going to make it. And I just love the fact that Angel looks at the oncoming army, and says, "I want to take out the dragon."
Yeah.
And it just kind of leaves me with a huge smile on my face that I think it's just, if Joss Whedon has done anything, it's he's telling these tales of inspiration to let you know that, if all things seems lost, go out swinging.
Right.
And I love it.
And Joss Whedon has also said of that ending, because he basically said the same thing you did, Cameron, to the extent of, Buffy got an ending, the characters get kind of a new lease on life. They, there's kind of a new dawn for them. Whereas Angel was canceled. I mean, just straight up, the WB canceled. And by the way, I'll never forgive the WB for that. That's actually the reason why I refused to watch Supernatural for years, because I was just so pissed off that they got rid of Angel.
Was it UPN by then?
No, it was still on WB.
Yeah, it was WB. Because remember, Angel and Buffy were separated at that point.
Yeah.
Angel was still on the WB. Buffy
left. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now, while Angel was canceled, they did tell them midway through the season so that they could write an ending.
The announcement was made the day after the episode, the amazing episode Smile Time, aired.
Oh, yeah.
This is the episode when Angel is turned into a Muppet.
Which you can buy, by the way. You can buy the Muppet.
I have it, Cameron.
No, you
I
don't.
have, and I have
Holy
the
shit.
vampire version. It's when he turns into vampire.
Where is it?
I will go. I don't have. I will find it. I will share it.
I want it on the back of the wall back there.
I'm gonna put it. I'll put it up there.
Your viewership, your subscribership will increase by 100 people. Your podcast will be tweeted out on Whedon-esque.
I will do it.
Okay.
In fact, by the way, it was a
shit.
gift for my wife. When I first
It's like $200.
my wife and I, you could make the case we fell in love watching Buffy and Angel. I
You
had
still
already
together?
seen it. We had already seen it, or rather, I had already seen it. But we started watching it, and it was funny. Like I'm very rigorous about this. We had to watch the first 3 seasons of Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
Then we started alternating Buffy and Angel episodes, just like you did during the original
But-
era.
I'm liking this.
But Buffy season 7, Angel season 4, since they were on different networks, do not sync up accordingly. You have to do like 4 episodes of Buffy, and then you got to do 3 episodes of Angel.
I forget how I did it, but I took that into Cameron. You're not talking to a lightweight here.
I know.
I had.
This is listen.
come on,
This
dude.
isn't real talk. This is real nerd talk. Right
No, yeah, I
there.
would say, yeah.
Real nerd talk, yeah.
I essentially, because it's like there's an episode
R&T.
of Buffy where it's like Willow's like, I gotta go, and she's not very specific about it.
Right.
And I made sure that led into,
Right.
her going to get Faith and break Faith out and do the whole.
Mhm.
Or actually, no, she doesn't break Faith. I'm forgetting. I actually haven't watched Buffy and Angel in a few years, but basically
Dark
she
Willow.
goes to LA to help Angel. Because in the 4th season, the amazing 4th season of Angel,
Mhm.
there's this huge. First of all, the 4th season of Angel is one long continuous story.
Oh yeah.
And as much as I don't like how they shit on the character of Cordelia at the end, it still is an amazing story. And it's like where the season begins, it's like, holy shit, they cover so much ground over the course of the season. But Willow basically goes to LA because Angel's basically the evil version of Angel. Angelus comes out. And since Willow was the only person living that's ever like re-ensouled him,
Mhm.
they bring her back so that she can do it. And it's
Epic.
very cool too, because at this point, Allison Hannigan is married to
The Marlboro Man.
to Wesley. Can't think of his name all of a sudden. And so there's actually a couple scenes with them, which I just think are kind of cute because, there's nothing overt about it, but the audience, I think most geeks knew they were married and they had
Right.
kind of nice scenes.
You're talking season five, and Angel had moments of like Darla killing herself in the alleyway
to save her baby.
to save the baby. Then of course season 5 gave us A Hole in the World, which is one of the most horribly depressing
heart-wrenching episodes of TV. Yeah.
Oh yeah, when Fred is crying about like, how can one little microorganism take me down? I mean, that's
Right.
kind of the age-old cancer AIDS story,
Yeah.
and it's played out. And I mean, the one of the finest speeches you'll ever see is in the penultimate episode of Angel, where season 5, where he stops everybody and he says, "Everybody else out there thinks we're fighting, but I know how to take on the Black Thorn. This is what we're going to do. And the fact that everybody in that final episode decides to live out their last day knowing they're going to die. Spike gets back on stage and does poetry and gets applauded. You know,
I would note of that scene, Cameron, because I too love that scene. The thing that makes that scene for me is there's a rendition of the theme Hero from Doyle's final episode.
Right.
A piece of music that appeared very, very infrequently after that episode, but it appeared there. And I just, again, I'll leave that there because people, I think, forget when you talk about the history of Angel. Glenn Quinn, who unfortunately passed away before Angel was even over, he was in the first 9 episodes of Angel. Oh yeah, he was Angel's original partner. And my understanding is, and maybe Cameron, you have some insight into this. Jay, maybe you know. I don't know.
I know.
I think Glenn Quinn, the thing that ultimately killed him is I think he died of a drug overdose or some heart problems related to that. And I think that's part of why he left the show. I think Joss Whedon kind of had written kind of like an escape hatch for him in the story, and they kind of, I don't think they fired him necessarily. He might have just decided to leave, but my understanding is there were some difficulties with him that led to his departure.
It was always going to happen with him passing it on to Cordelia. It just happened a little quicker than it was supposed to. However, that episode Hero just leaves you speechless at the end. You know? But what's interesting is that they brought in Doyle for the first, you said 9 episodes. I could have sworn it was 10, but you're probably right, 9. And that was supposed to be, God, what was his name? Whistler or Whistler,
the guy who had helped when we got Angel's backstory at the end of season 2 Buffy. You're right. It was supposed to be Max Perlich from Homicide: Life on the Street
and the new Twin Peaks.
yes, and the new Twin Peaks. That's true.
But it was supposed to be him, and the actor was busy, so they created Doyle. But if you think about it, it probably should have been Whistler, you know, because it just makes more sense that he would know about it. But
all right.
Yes,
Cameron, I got real nerd talk. Go. Give it to me. Real nerd talk.
About what? I thought we were giving nerd talk.
Just say real nerd talk. Come on, you got to do the
nerd talk. Real nerd talk.
Okay, here's one I can give you. Being a '90s kid, Hercules and Xena.
I'm getting there, buddy. It's on my list. Believe me.
Is Xena a spinoff of Hercules?
Yes.
Is it a fit? Like, so she appeared on Hercules.
She is,
I didn't realize that.
She is the spinoff to Hercules that She-Ra was to He-Man.
Gotcha. My bad, Jay. Sorry.
No,
I'm sorry. We're dominating this, Jay. Please.
Yeah, Jay, give us a show, man.
Well, we can go with that right there. That's
She-Ra, Princess of Power.
No, Xena. Xena, the Warrior Princess spinoff of Hercules and Legendary Journeys. You guys watch either one of those?
I'm gonna be honest. I've never seen it.
I've seen Xena, but I haven't seen Hercules. And Xena was always kind of like on Saturday afternoon. There'd be reruns, and I would be doing nothing else, and I just have it on while I was doing something else. So I've seen it, and Lucy Lawless is gorgeous, of course, and as was her friend. But it wasn't something like I tuned into regular. I was more of a fan of VIP, Jay. You remember VIP? Starring Pamela Anderson.
Remember She Spies with whoever plays Species. What's her, Natasha something or other?
Wait, Natasha Henstridge was on that show? Are you sure?
She in She Spies?
Oh, She Spy. Oh, yes, she was. Wow. Yes. Good reference.
If I like Femme Nikita, does that make me gay?
I don't think so.
I loved all these shows, but I love dominant female leads. I love them.
Yeah. What about Silk Stockings?
No, like
all this shit now. Wonder Woman. I was watching this stuff 20 years ago.
Alias. Guys. Alias is fantastic. You a big fan of Alias, Eric?
It was a show that I think no. The short answer is no. But it's not because I didn't like it, it's because I never saw it.
First 2 seasons, some of the finest television you'll ever see. Then it jumps the shark, so much so that in season 4 they're fighting vampires.
Cameron, that was produced by Fox, right? Correct?
That was J.J. Abrams? Yeah.
And Dark Angel is another good one.
Ooh, James Cameron show.
But that's not a spinoff, right?
No.
Oh, you're okay. Now we're just. Oh, actually, and by the way, I watched Dark Angel pretty religiously all through its first season. God, Jessica Alba, circa Dark Angel. Holy cow, man, that was a favorite show of mine. I'll say.
Damn.
And something of note. fans of NCIS would probably enjoy Dark Angel, because if you were ever fans of Anthony DiNozzo on NCIS, her like handler on Dark Angel, the dude in the wheelchair, is Anthony DiNozzo on NCIS. Michael Weatherly. That was the first thing I ever saw Michael Weatherly in. Dark Angel.
There was discussion real quick about doing a Shield spinoff that lasted about like half a second of discussions of Vic breaking Ronnie out of jail and then going on the run in Mexico.
I never heard that. What I had heard is that, and I don't know that it was ever thought of as a show, or I think it was more thought of as like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean Ryan has talked about this a couple of times. And basically the idea was that the movie would appear to be about some other, like, you know, guy on like city narcotics in LA, and he's got to get like really deep into the underbelly of like the drug world or do one thing, and he's got to go to this guy that like should like that knows like the heart of it. And it turns out that the guy he's got to go to is Vic Mackey, who's kind of like
Hannibal Lecter.
He's like, no, I mean, because remember, he wasn't in jail. Remember, Vic got out, and it's basically like, you know, he's kind of, you know, he's a pariah. He's kind of, you know, just living underground, sort of, not really, you know, not really doing anything. I mean, hell, maybe he's probably doing some, you know, shit in the underworld, but, you know, it's basically like, it wouldn't really be, the connection to the Shield would be Vic Mackey. Like, I don't think we'd be catching up with Claudette or Dutch or any of those people. It would be purely like revisiting Vic Mackey's character, which, as described by Sean Ryan, I think I could dig that. I mean, again, I love the Shield, and you know, I even though nothing else Sean Ryan makes ever friggin' gets to continue, I still like the Shield, and I know he's got a good show in him somewhere.
I know this is about spinoffs, but let me throw this out to you guys because I've never seen it. I own the whole damn show, but I haven't seen it yet because I just don't have any time. How was Sean Ryan's The Unit? Is it good?
Actually, that's true. The Unit went several seasons. I never. Jay, did you watch The Unit?
No, did not.
Yeah. So, all right then. I heard it's good.
Well,
I heard it's good.
It was on CBS, and I heard it was good. It made it like 3 or 4 seasons. I think
it got canceled. There's no ending.
Right. But my understanding was it was kind of it wasn't a serialized show anyway, or at least not like the Shield was. It was, you know, it was kind of a mission of the week type deal.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. But one connection I want to make, because we're talking about Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan, while he got his start, I think, elsewhere too, he did make his bones on Angel.
Yes, he did.
Season 2. He wrote several pivotal episodes of that season.
Yes,
he
he
made
did.
his
Just wanted to
bones
throw that
on
out
Angel, really?
Yeah. And
Nice.
speaking of spinoffs,
'Cause he was on
it's sad news to have to say that Shout Factory has canceled their Teen Wolf the animated series DVD set they were releasing. That breaks my heart because I was all ready to pre-order that.
So honestly, like I could, you know, it depends what direction we want to go here in terms of spinoffs, because I've got several more on my list. Let me jump to one just that I don't think would be immediately obvious that people would remember, but I remember it at the time because I was a fan of the original show. The Practice on ABC, starring Dylan McDermott, which I loved, fantastic show. It was one of those shows where I don't remember if it was a contract thing or a money thing or what happened, but the Practice ran, I think, 7 seasons. But for the 7th season, Dylan McDermott didn't come back. Lara Flynn Boyle didn't come back. And that was, by the way, Lara Flynn Boyle still had her original face and body. So still pretty. And I forget, someone else didn't come back either.
And they brought in Steph.
They brought in James Spader to take over the show. Basically, they brought him in as a new partner on the show, and he was just like he was basically James Spader. He was a total wise ass. He kind of was always getting them in trouble, and that turned kind of the final season of The Practice into sort of a prototype of what would become Boston Legal. Boston Legal, I think, fits the spin-off category more than a sequel, because really, you know, he was a character in the final season of The Practice, James Spader was, but, you know, they really just took him and the character of Rona Mitra, who I think only appeared on Boston Legal for the first season, if that, and put them on Boston Legal. None of the other characters from The Practice appeared maybe they did once or twice, but like if I'm not mistaken, I don't know that we ever saw them after the final season of the Practice. But as we all know, like William Shatner won Emmys for Boston Legal. I mean, again, that show went on for about 5 seasons. I think did very well.
And NBC looked at what David E. Kelly did with that show by bringing Spader in and
thank you, Mrs. Bruce. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
there it is.
There he is. Fantastic. So, like you see, this is the Smile. I'm sorry to interrupt, Cameron. We'll get right back to it.
Yeah.
This is Smile Time Angel, but remember at the climactic ending of Smile Time, Angel vamps out in his puppet form into this guy.
Okay, Eric, hold that steady. Hold it up. Smile. Okay, screenshot.
All right. This is going to be the screenshot of this video. I'm not doing our usual template. I think this says it all right here.
Yeah. I was going to say NBC looked at what David E. Kelly did with The Practice and Boston Legal and tried to copy it with James Spader for The Office.
That's what I was about to say. They Robert California that thing, didn't they?
Yeah. Because they brought him in.
It was a different character, but they did bring him in to kind of.
I mean, they brought him in the last 1 or 2 episodes of whatever was season 7, and then season 8 he took over. And unfortunately, James Spader did not do very well in The Office like he did in Boston Legal. I mean, he did not. He knocked it out of the park on Boston Legal.
So it's. And we should probably do an episode of this show just about The Office, because by the way, The Office is absolutely one of my favorite comedies ever made. It truly, like you want to start talking about funny TV, I can still turn on episodes of seasons 2 and 3 and laugh my ass off, knowing full well each joke that's coming right up in front.
And if you ever have the DVDs or Blu-rays and you watch the deleted scenes, it's like watching a whole new episode because they're not cut for bad jokes. They're cut for time.
Right. And what's funny about that, Cameron, is I used to watch The Office season 3 on my DVD set. Now that I watch it on Netflix, it's different. There are scenes and even different takes of scenes in the episode. So, for example, there is a scene from the episode where Jim first comes. This is becoming an Office discussion. I apologize, but there's a scene from the episode where Jim first comes back to Scranton, and basically Creed is like explaining like the events that have happened. He's like, "We've had a funeral for a bird," and Jim basically goes, "Pretty sure none of that's real." And then Creed goes, "You're not real, man." And again, it's actually a funny thing on the bloopers because it totally cracks up John Krasinski, but. That scene actually appears for me on Netflix now. That scene was not on the DVD. Really? I only ever saw it on the bloopers, like the blooper reel. So it's interesting to me when I rewatch it on Netflix because there's just things that don't jive with my DVD of it.
Now, that's weird. Does Netflix have? Was it season 6 that had that Halloween opening that they completely took off the DVDs? Because they go onto
remind me what it is.
They go onto some like amusement park ride, and they kind of go through like Michael Scott creates this like Halloween like drive-through thing in which he's like hanging, and he's got a noose around his neck and he's like screaming like he's dying, and it's like supposed to be like this haunted house thing. Apparently, it aired on NBC once. They did not put it on the DVD sets at all, but you can find it on YouTube. It's like insane.
I need to look that up. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it played one time on NBC. It's on YouTube.
I will look for that.
Just type in Office. I don't know, season 6 Halloween. I mean, you can't miss it.
I won't do it. I'll look for it later.
Let's see, Office Butthurt.
But yeah, no, it's shocking. But yeah, no, I was just saying that James Spader is a hell of a good actor, and I think that because The Office didn't work out for him, I think that's why he got blacklist. I think NBC kind of said, "Well, how about we give you?"
Looks like trash. I haven't seen it, but
I actually watched a few episodes of The Blacklist, and I was surprised that it wasn't.
Really? Okay.
I saw enough that I may one day kind of continue with it. There are so many other better things I'd rather watch right now, so.
Fair enough.
From that, I guess by that definition, maybe it is trash. But I would just say that
you're watching Quantico.
that James Spader, Quantico. That James Spader and like the James Spader and like the Horrible Bosses movies and stuff. Like I don't like it. I don't know what he's got going on.
I will say though, that is as much as the James Spader character doesn't work, he does have some very funny moments because sort of at the end of season 8, when he and Andy are kind of going after one another, and there's like a thing he says to Andy where he's like you effete, like pantyless, like you think you're gonna come after me? You don't even know my real name. I'm the fucking Lizard King. They bleep it, of course.
I know
I just remember that being really fun.
I know we talked about season 8 in terms of like just how they kind of messed up Ed Helms' character, but take him out of the equation. Why else is season 8 just such a dud? I mean, because it was the same writers. I mean, what do you think happened?
It was.
I don't think it's a dud. First of all,
I do. I think there are good points. I think that, again, the storyline, the initial story down in Florida has some very funny material. The Dwight takes a special project to Florida, I actually think is quite funny, and there's a lot of good bits there. I just think, for what I really think, honestly, that they were so knocked off kilter by losing Steve Carell, which I don't understand, and by trying to be different and play off of the ensemble. Mm-hmm. And make sure that, and I know you're saying take Ed Helms out of the equation, but you kind of have to think of, because Ed Helms is part of why I think it at least in my opinion, again, Jay I think has a different opinion, but in my opinion, season 8 is a kind of a stink burger because they didn't want to have the show now revolve around Ed Helms. And in my opinion, if they had done that and focused on Andy's quirks as a manager, which they did do in some episodes, which were largely successful. Andy, every day singing Closing Time, that is the Andy Bernard I know and love. That would, more stuff like that would have been funny. Not like, oh, I'm Andy and I'm going to, take a month off and sail a boat, or, well, that was season 9, but, oh, I'm going to go chase Aaron down. Street? And I also just felt, too, like the writers didn't want to repeat Jim and Pam with Andy and Aaron, but it was so obvious that they had such good chemistry that, what's the saying about writing, Cameron? About, guys, you don't want to feel the hand of the writer. You don't want writing to feel like writing. You don't want the hand of your screenwriter or your author kind of see it moving. And I just felt like it was so obvious to me that the writers were keeping Andy and Aaron apart simply because they just didn't want to do that kind of story again, that it felt inorganic. Mm-hmm. And that was another thing that torpedoed season 8 for me. But I'm sorry, Jay, I stepped all over you.
I think season 8's solid, man. I think the season 7, when Michael leaves and they bring in all the other different bosses and eventually Robert California stays, I think that's the weakest point in the show.
Really?
And all the stuff with Andy when he comes back, after he filmed whatever Hangover movie that was.
Yeah. And
I think that's a big reason why that season's not as good. But I don't know. I still think it's solid. I can name you all these great gags, like the pool party at Robert California's house.
The pool party is a mixed episode for me. There are some funny bits in that episode, and I'll always take seeing Aaron in a bathing suit, whether it's one piece or not.
Whoa, Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah, Kimmy Schmidt. But I just that. To be honest, Jay, that episode to me is almost like a perfect encapsulation of what I think is wrong with season 8. I don't know what the tone of that episode is supposed to be. There's the story going on in the room with the pool, where Dwight and Aaron are chicken fighting with Andy and his girlfriend, and then there's random stuff with Kelly. But then meanwhile, there's this other story where Jim, being the antisocial douche that he is sometimes, doesn't really want to be there, so he gets taken on this house tour, walking around with Robert California, and then Ryan and Gabe.
Didn't you love that though? That was awesome.
Yeah, it was this weird hetero or homoerotic kind of weird thing with Robert. I loved it. I couldn't figure out what it was supposed to be. I shouldn't have to try that hard.
Sure. Yeah, the stuff with Ryan and Gabe, that's what I was going to bring up, is what I loved. They would go to every room. They just got progressively drunker, and no one wanted to bail out first.
Right. Right. And by the way, that's not the character of Gabe, who he's gone on and plays a different role on Silicon Valley, but I think that actor is very funny, and oddly enough, which this is going to come out of nowhere, I know, but even though I largely disliked Ghostbusters, I thought his brief cameo in the movie was one of the parts I found funnier. Like, I just thought, I don't know, I thought he was interesting. Like,
I just had this thought, Eric, put this down. I would love this to be a possible topic for one of your shows one time.
Sure thing.
TV shows that stuck the landing.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
Either by a season or by the finale, but because I think The Office, like I criticize seasons 8 and 9 a lot for different reasons, but I do think the final episode of The Office is a nice closure. I think they did a nice job.
I agree with you about 90%.
We get the Dwight wedding. I mean, there's always a wedding in these shows.
The Dwight wedding, I have no problem with that. Frankly, that made sense. Keeping Dwight and Angela apart was another thing that I thought was sort of annoying. But again, it works in the context of having that be kind of the final sequence of the show. They lead up to that. That's fine.
Well, real quick, I know Michael and his girlfriend, whatever her name, Heidi or whatever. Was her
Holly.
name? Holly. They were really cute. But after seeing that, we were talking about a couple episodes ago, that dinner scene between him and Jan.
Yeah.
I think that one of the big mistakes they made was writing Jan out of the series, because I think Michael and Jan, maybe for another half season, would have just been amazeballs, and then maybe transition that into Holly if you want to do something like that. But that dinner
killed it largely.
Right. But I'm saying they could have brought her back in 5, and they didn't. She just kind of, she comes back in for like 1 or 2 little episodes, and that's it. And I always thought missed opportunity there, because when they had such great chemistry, and then of course it all culminates in that dinner parties, which is which I've said is the darkest, most blackest half-hour comedy I think that I've seen on TV.
That's my favorite episode right there.
Yeah, it's up there.
You know what's funny is that every man that says that, Jay, they're all married. Single guys don't think that, but married guys think that's the funniest episode.
When he's showing off his 13-inch plasma screen, he thinks it's the coolest thing in the world, and she mashes it with a Dundee, I think.
Yes, she does.
Which, by the way, that to me is one of my favorite episodes. Season 2, episode 1, the Dundies.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. That's where Pam, I think she falls off the bar.
Yeah, she falls off the bar. She gets drunk and kisses Jim,
and she gets kicked out of Chili's.
Yes,
and then years later, Chili's made an announcement they were going to let Pam back in, and not even on the show. It was like a thing they did for real.
That was actually recently, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I swear I just saw something where she said that, where it's like I'm allowed back in.
Yeah,
which I thought was funny. Just one final thing is that I thought. And we are so far off Spinoffs now, but
the only reason I don't think we can talk about the farm.
That's true. That would be a show like Spinoffs that didn't happen.
Okay, listen, The Office may not be a spinoff, but it is a remake of a British show. So technically,
that's true. Okay, and we know that it exists in the same universe because Brent appeared in Michael Scott's final season. Remember, they met by the elevator, which
is kind of funny considering.
And he was also a candidate for the job.
The first episode and the pilot of the American Office is the same plot.
Yeah, the exact. That is kind of
stapler being in the Jello. So,
right. I was only going to say that the final episode of The Office doesn't fully stick the landing for me. I think it is largely satisfying, and I always get a little choked up at the end. I think it's very powerful stuff.
Oh, I cried 7 times at the end of that episode.
Because Andy has a line there, and actually I feel like I've given this line on the show before, but Andy has a line at the end where he says something like, I wish, or no, he says when I was here, all I could do was think about my good times with my old buddies back at Cornell. But now that I'm at Cornell, I kind of all I can do is think about all my good times with my buddies here. I wish someone would tell you when you were in the good old days while you were still in them. And I'm not saying it is artfully as he said it, but it was something that really kind of struck me. And when I first saw, actually I had rewatched The Office. I was actually leaving a job that I had been in almost 5 years. So I remembered that that line was very poignant to me at the time when I rewatched the show one time, and it just so there's that. But I don't think it sticks to the landing perfectly, because it bothered me so much that the show went out of its way a number of times to avoid mentioning Michael Scott. Something that I was happy to see in the post-Diane years of Cheers, the show did not do. Cheers has brought up Diane several times, oftentimes with a good joke about Like at one point, Carla makes a comment about like the Great Dark Period.
Yeah.
And then there's other times they specifically name her. They meant like again, they say Diane or Mrs. Chambers. Whereas The Office, it seemed like they were going so far out of their way and talking in ways they wouldn't have normally spoken, just not to say his name. Another situation where I could feel the hand of the writer. There's like a talking head with Ryan when D'Angelo is the boss, and he basically his line is something like, "I got away with everything with the old boss," and it's like, fucking we know, just say Michael. We know who he is. Like, why would you say the old boss?
Now usually if a show does that, it's because Michael Scott has become a spin-off show on another network, so they don't want to mention that name. right. That's why when they were doing Angel, Joss Whedon was told by WB, the less you mention that other show on the UPN network, the better.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why there's actually some funny, like there's episode like Buffy doesn't really reference Angel, but Angel references because there's like a whole episode, I think the first episode of season 3. Because remember, Buffy died at the end of season 5, and it was hard for Angel not to mention it. So that's actually how Angel season 2 ended.
Right.
Was Willow was waiting. It was a word. It was there was a no-line cameo. Willow was waiting to tell them after the fantastic 3-part finale of Angel season 2. I love that episode
with the Joss Whedon dance of glory or whatever it is.
Do the dance of shame.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But,
sorry guys. So wait. We have an ad to run here.
What's that?
I've seen it. It's never been opened, not even once. Just like drugs, buddy.
Oh yeah.
That Exorcist is
$3.
I actually did a commentary with James on the channel for it.
That's why I was like, oh yeah, he just did a commentary on that. It's over there in the corner.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I've been wanting to watch it just so I can do a video on how terrible it is, but I don't think I can bring myself to do it.
I honestly had never seen it all the way through, so I was like, well, this is my one chance to see it all the way through.
But it's so bad, man. Oh, okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
I did the first 3 from I think like Hollywood Video back in the 90s, and I was like, all right, first one, this is fucking scary. I watched it alone Friday night. Yeah. Second one popped it in. I was like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, I was so pumped.
You know what I've been watching the last few days, real quick, is because I honestly had never seen them. I watched all the Psycho sequels.
Oh, they're so good.
2, 3, and 4. Oh yeah, they're not bad. I don't think they're as good as some people say they are, but I don't think they're bad at all.
What do you think about Psycho 2?
Sorry. I honestly, I've seen the first episode. I own the whole thing, but I haven't.
No. I mean the movie. It's a separate movie now. The
that one that came out in the 80s.
It was supposed to be like an anthology show.
Yeah, it was like
Motel,
a TV.
That one?
It was a TV movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, and since I was a kid, I don't remember it. But no, I just watched Psycho 2, 3, and 4, and then I just watched the commentary for the remake. So,
wow.
Psycho 3, I think, is like the bottom of the barrel of the sequels, because I think Psycho 2 has an interesting story. There's a riff tracks for Psycho 2, by the way. That's very funny. And Psycho 4, I think, is an interesting story. But Psycho 3, honestly, just feels like the Psycho movie's trying to be a slasher movie. It doesn't seem like a Psycho movie.
But there's some good moments in it, though. There are. It's not a real quick. I mean, 2 is like it's a good movie and it's got a good ending. But when you think back, it's like, does it really make sense that this woman, like, it's like it's not his real mom. This is his real mom, and so he has to kill. I don't know. It's just kind of movie convenience, but it still ends really well and stuff like that. But I mean, the special effects in Psycho 2 look absolutely horrendous on Blu-ray. I mean, when Dennis Franz has. Speaking of NYPD Blue, he gets his face slashed, but when he sits up, I mean, you can totally tell he's wearing a mask.
Oh yeah,
it's horrible.
Yeah.
Then when Norman Bates gets stabbed in the hands, I mean, you can totally tell it's some guy just standing there with a mannequin hand.
Yeah.
It's horrible. The Blu-ray is not every movie's best friend. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I think especially you start getting to like the 80s, some of the Friday the 13th movies, to take it organically to Friday the 13th, I would say they have some problems on Blu-ray, some of them.
You can totally see the makeup and the color differential.
Because like the uncut version of the original, for example, I still think it largely holds up, but you're right, Jay, that like when Annie gets her throat slashed, you know, it's just, you know, you almost see like the mound of fake skin that's like making up her throat. You know, it's part of the charm now, I think, and it was always schlocky, kind of, you know, goofy.
That scene
stuff,
made
but-
me sick when I was a kid.
Oh yeah,
I remember I saw it on TV. I was like, oh my God. And then like the next morning I was eating my corn pops, right? And I'm sitting there and I kept thinking about that scene of the blood pouring out of her neck, and I got sick eating corn pops.
Nice.
maybe it was the corn pops. Ugh.
Yeah,
No,
those things sucks. Get Cinnamon Toast Crunch. What the fuck's up, bro?
I did get some Star Wars. I did get some Star Wars Force Awakens 99-cent grocery outlet cereal. It was
Okay.
wannabe Lucky Charms, man. They have like
Ooh.
some marshmallows, but not enough.
Hey, cereal
Star-
talk. They have chocolate Lucky Charms now.
No.
Have you guys seen those?
My favorite cereal
I've seen them.
is Captain Crunch's Oops All Berries, where they
That's good
forget the
stuff.
Captain Crunch and it's just the berries.
Ooh.
It's
Oh
not as
my.
good as Fruity Pebbles, but it's
All right,
good.
favorite cereal spin-offs. Go.
The go-to cereal, like when they're trying to put something out that's like popular, is to do like a Lucky Charms type thing, where it's either got like the
Mallow
Chex,
melts.
like Chex, and then the little marshmallows.
Mm.
They did that for Ninja Turtle cereal.
Yeah.
Or it's always chocolate and it's like little balls, or it's like pebbles and it's like Cocoa Frenzy. And I'm like, no,
I
that's
think
not
my
the same, bro.
favorite spinoff cereal would be Rice Krispie Treats cereal. I
Ooh.
love that stuff. That's good stuff.
Ooh, I gotta try that.
You know what candy's awesome? Reese's peanut butter cups, but the cereal fucking blows. It's
What about
so
the
bad?
What about the Reese's ice
okay.
cream? Is that any good?
Yeah.
I haven't tried
Okay.
it.
Really depends who makes it.
Mm.
Like, wait, you mean Reese's makes their own ice cream, or you mean
Yeah.
just Reese's flavor?
No, there's
And then the
there's
fondant
Reese's
part
peanut
is
butter
really
ice
good, too.
cream and Twix ice cream.
Oh.
Official.
Oh, wait, made by like Breyers or something?
No, it's official. I mean, it's like
Oh.
it's Twix.
I
ice
didn't.
cream.
Try
I
that.
haven't seen that. I
Hershey's.
didn't know.
Yeah.
I'd have to try it,
Hershey.
which
Your
I'd
wife-
love to do.
Does your wife let you buy crazy food like that?
She does, and she's funny about it because she's got the gluten thing. So
Yeah, I get weird
know,
looks from my
she'll-
wife. If I start bringing, she's like, "You spent money on that? That's not good for you." I don't care. I want.
I sometimes get that reaction, and then other times I get that like, how is it? Is it good? Like sometimes it depends on
Cameron
mood.
turns to his wife.
Let me tell you
You
guys
see
a
this
story.
Milky Way? This is keeping me from losing my fucking mind.
There was this kid who had a severe peanut allergy, but he always wanted to try a Reese's peanut butter cup. So he gets his EpiPen out, and he takes a bite of the Reese's cup and stabs the EpiPen in his thigh. That's a video. You can look that up on the internet somewhere.
Wow,
That is funny.
wow, that's pretty amazing.
I mean, that's
fucking-
dedication.
What a
That is
fucking
dedication.
badass.
He said it was worth
You're my hero, sir.
it. Plus, EpiPen's like $1,000 now. So
Yeah.
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 Well, so before we, honestly, there's a ton of stuff we didn't get. There are so many.
Let's start-
First of all, there are some
Come
big
on.
ones we didn't even touch on.
Do it.
Star Trek is a really obvious. You know, here's where you start. Here's where we start having debates. Is Star Trek: The Next Generation a spin-off or is it a sequel?
Sequel.
I sort of think it's a
Sequel.
sequel, but you
Yeah.
could make the based on the criteria we were talking about, Cameron. You could also make the case it's a spin-off because it
It's a
really is a
soft
whole new set of
reboot.
character, and it kind of is that too. I know Jay hates the term, but it is. Meanwhile, and this is where it really gets muddy. I would say that Deep Space Nine
Mm.
it's a spin-off.
is a spin-off of Star
Yeah.
Trek: The Next Generation.
Okay.
Well, that's
Specifically
worth on
because Captain Sisko's character
Mm.
originates from the events of the two-part Best of Both Worlds episode. Like basically, Captain Picard's Borg form Locutus kills Sisko's wife, which is kind of what like sets his story in motion.
So you have
Voyager is similarly a spin-off of Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine and Voyager. I'll throw you out Caprica.
Caprica is it? Well, it's like a prequel spin-off. Well, that's the thing. Is it a
Ah!
spin-off or a prequel? There you go. I don't know.
What did that have? Kevin Sorbo in it?
It had
No, it's Battlestar Galactica.
it actually there was actually a decent we were talking about Deadwood.
Eric Stoltz
the
and
actress
Ethan
who played-
Morales.
Yeah, the actress who played Trixie on Deadwood. But first off, the reason Caprica failed is because I think they tried to get a little too uppity. Like rather than do like, okay, this is the origin of Cylons, they instead like made it this weird family drama between the people who became the Adamas and the guy who sort of kind of invented the Cylons, but it took them so long to get where they were going that by the time the show got canceled, and by the way, the showrunner for Caprica was Jane Espenson.
Yep.
One of the main writers on Buffy. And I think she did an episode of Angel or two, too.
She was with Whedon for a while, all the way through Firefly.
Right. She did some good Firefly. In fact, she might have been the Out of Gas writer, but I don't hold me to that. In any case, she readily admits
she did the one where what's her name got the big dress.
Yes, she did. Yes,
that's the one she did.
I like that episode a lot.
Kaylee, when Kaylee got the big like deadwood dress.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it.
By the way, Kevin Sorbo was in Andromeda. That's
what it was.
How come? I mean, real quick, why do you think like X-Files never got? Did it get a spin-off?
It did. The Lone Gunman. That wasn't even on my list. Yeah. Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, how does a show go 10 seasons and not have a spin-off?
It had Lone Gunman, which by the way was fantastic. Don't you remember, Cameron? The Lone Gunman is famous. The first episode of the Lone Gunman. They foil a plot by terrorists to fly a passenger jet into the World Trade Center.
No, I don't remember that.
This was in 2000.
Wow.
Spoiler big memes.
Yes, dank memes indeed.
Wow.
Okay, so while we're on the topic, I know it's not TV, but movies. The two X-Files movies, are they worth watching at all? I've never actually seen them.
The first one is.
Well, the first one you
actually
watched between 5 and 6, right?
Yeah, if you're gonna watch the seasons, watch the movie.
Yeah, so watch seasons 1 through 5, then watch. And I remember like watching season 5 and then being excited because like it came out like in June or July. I remember we went to the movie theater and it was like, the X-Files were closed down. It followed right on from the series, but it really could kind of stand on its own to some extent, even though it was still, it was very complex. It honored the show. The second movie, holy God, I wanted to kill myself.
Well, it's just kind of like a Monster of the Week episode they forgot to make.
Right. Well, that's exactly right. And so,
it's not good, also.
And their theory, right. It was also not a very strong one. Their theory was that, the X-Files, like its standalone episodes, are really strong. If we want to try and kind of start the X-Files movies up again, let's kind of do a more, something that's accessible by general audiences. The problem is, and this, by the way, was my problem with the new series that came out too, the way the X-Files ended, it's just completely, you can't just do that. Fox Mulder was on the run from the government. He basically escaped a death penalty sentence. The government was apparently filled with super soldiers that were out to kill him. Mulder and Scully were on the run. And then this movie begins, and it's just like, oh, well, we live in West Virginia, not very far from D.C., and oh, gee gosh, well, the FBI lost an agent. We need Fox Mulder. And then there's just this, it's literally one line. It's like, they say all's forgiven. Oh, you mean the overarching alien fucking conspiracy that was out to kill me for 10 years? Whatever. Just, we're good. Don't worry about it.
We need to get off this topic.
It's a trail of everything we watch.
Right.
I've got it. I own it, but I haven't revisited the second movie just because I hated it so much in the theater.
Yeah, I have it as a double feature.
Yeah, me too.
He was gonna explode.
All of that story stuff aside, it also pisses me off. As a former resident of Virginia, it takes place in Virginia. I forget where. But it basically takes place in a fucking winter wonderland. It's constant snow. It's white everywhere. And I'm like, Virginia has never looked like this. Maybe for a week, occasionally in December or January, it'll snow like that. But it's so... Again, I could go on.
You know why I knew the movie was going to be terrible when I saw the title, I Want to Believe. I was like, no, that's not a movie title.
Yeah, because that was the other thing. It's kind of like Mulder is sort of having like a crisis of faith, and like, what the fuck, man? Like, just Mulder and Scully chasing aliens. Where the hell's Doggett and Reyes too? I loved the character. I would, in fact, we need to have an X-Files episode, Jay. Let's put that on the damn docket because the episode, the season 8 of the X-Files, seasons 8 and 9 of the X-Files often get lumped together as like, oh, after Mulder left, it sucked. False. That is not true. Season 8 of the X-Files was a creative resurgence for that show because it basically flipped the paradigm. Rather than Fox Mulder the believer, Dana Scully the skeptic, by this point in the show, it essentially acknowledges Scully has seen some shit. You know, she's seen aliens, she's seen mutants, she's seen all this crazy stuff. Doggett comes in, now he's the skeptic, and Scully's in the position of, out of guilt for her lost partner and other things, like she's the one trying to convince Doggett that there are aliens and there's monsters and there's all these, you know, we're fighting giant bat people out in the woods, like, and then meanwhile it's just, you know, oh shit, God, his name's escaping me. The guy who played T-1000, he played Doggett.
Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick was awesome in that role. Like,
so
Robert Patrick's a total badass.
Eric,
in anything he does, he's really good.
I think there needs to be a fan intervention, and we need to write a letter to 20th Century Fox and get Chris Carter off the X-Files and bring in a new showrunner.
Yes.
Let's give it to Brian Fuller. He'll take it into good directions.
Well, maybe.
All right, another movie question. Orc has to ask. All right, movie The Faculty. Dank-ass movie. Are there any TV shows that are kind of like that?
Like The Faculty? Like
The
Invasion of the
Faculty,
Body
that
Snatchers?
Yeah,
premise,
be
that
more
plot.
specific. How do you mean that?
The
Aliens coming in and basically, like, you know, trying to take over one person at a time. Is there any TV
Orc,
shows
you
like that?
triggered me again, because there was a whole slew of fucking shows out there that tried to do what Lost did, and several of them were basically that. There was a show called Threshold that I think was on CBS, and even ABC had another show that was like that, where it was like a small town and like aliens were starting to replace people, and it was all like, oh, let's all just do a mystery show and we all know how it's gonna end and we got a plan.
Isn't that
And
Under
none
the
of them were
Dome?
fucking good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And a number of Buffy episodes did that as well, where people took...
But did them well.
Yeah.
Unlike the shows
Yeah.
I was referencing.
But I mean, you know, I was thinking about X-Files, and I asked you about the spin-offs of that. Around the same time, there was Millennium. That also came out with Lance Henriksen.
what I
And
was going to
Millennium's pretty
say.
good.
That's kind of what Chris Carter was kind of trying to put himself into too many directions, I think.
Yeah. And Millennium was, you know, we can bring things back to Twin Peaks, because Millennium was canceled. It didn't really have an official ending. It got sort of an ending on the X-Files, which I believe also featured the first sort of official Mulder and Scully kiss. They kissed at midnight on New Year's Eve at the end of the episode. But they basically bring resolution to the Millennium plot, except Millennium fans are pissed off because really it wasn't really about anything that had been on the show. It was like such an abridged version. But Kenneth Walsh, Wyndham Earl himself, was the villain of that episode. He was kind of the guy trying to bring closure, ending to the whole Millennium plot, you know, and ultimately it turned out to be zombies or something. That was the other reason.
And something I heard recently is that the main, one of the big TV stations that is mentioned in the X-Files throughout the series is the name of the radio station in episode 8, Twin Peaks. When the woodsman comes in, it's like KR or something. It's the same call letters in the X-Files.
Huh.
Just like when they go in that diner in episode 8, it says Pop's Diner or something, which is a reference to Riverdale.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
what the hell is Lynch doing referencing X-Files in Riverdale in 1940s New Mexico? I don't know.
All right, Cameron, have you ever thought about quitting your day job and just becoming a detective?
I actually, you know, well, yeah, because I was doing a lot of investigative.
He's a good cop.
I was doing a lot of investigative work for a true crime film that I was working on, which you know about.
Yep.
And my dream would be to just get an honorary like FBI. Like,
That would be awesome.
not to be.
You solved the case, Cameron.
No. I mean, just to be recognized, like, you know, oh, you know, you did this good deed. You are today, you know, FBI, but you don't, you know, not in the future, but just today we recognize it.
Going. Come on.
Yeah.
Woo.
So anyway, so again, we didn't even touch on Star Trek, which that'd be a whole. I mean, heck, we could probably just do a show on Star Trek.
Yeah.
We didn't touch on Law and Order.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. There's like
First of all,
20.
and
That's a
and
lot,
this is going to
yeah.
trigger me too. Special Victims Unit is not Law and Order. Okay, let me be specific about this.
It's not
all right?
okay.
On Law and Order, the police actually have to investigate the crimes. They have to
Don't.
get evidence. Every friggin' episode of Law and Order, after the cops investigate, Jack McCoy spends the next friggin' 30 minutes like dealing with the fact that the defense got all the evidence thrown out. On Special Victims Unit, Olivia and Elliot just walk around, beating up suspects, just inventing evidence, doing whatever the hell they want, and they always get the guy at the end, and they never even show the trial. That's not Law and Order. It pisses me off.
Don't.
I'm willing to accept Criminal Intent far more than I am Special Victims Unit.
Well, listen, I like Hawaii Five-0, and all the Asian actors just quit the show. So now all the white people are in charge. So does that make it a spinoff now? You can't do Hawaii Five-0 without Daniel Day Kim. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know how. Again, he's a pretty critical character.
Yeah.
So there was also a failed Law and Order spinoff. Some of you guys may remember this, may not. Also would tie back to our conversations about Cheers because it starred Bebe Neuwirth. Law and Order Trial by Jury. So this one focused kind of more on the trial aspect of it. And it's where Jerry Orbach made his final appearances as Lenny Briscoe, because he basically left the original Law and Order and he appeared on Trial by Jury. But by that point, Jerry Orbach's, I think he had throat cancer, was super, super bad. He was only in the first 2 episodes. And in the second episode, which is his final Law and Order appearance in anything, his illness was so bad he couldn't yell. There's a scene where the verdict was being given out and Lenny was supposed to be like, they got him, but he couldn't yell. He couldn't voice. So they kind of conducted the scene in such a fashion where everybody had to be quiet so that Lenny had to whisper. And so it's like, they got him. And, everybody's all happy with glee. But I was always pissed off that they never acknowledged Lenny's death. It was a few years before it was officially acknowledged on, I think Criminal Intent mentioned it and the original Law and Order mentioned.
But is there continuity in this show?
In which show?
In all of them. I thought, yes, I understand that, yes, they might reference here and there, but for the most part, isn't it just you can kind of come in any week and just watch a standalone episode? It wasn't like it followed a narrative.
It sort of was a case of the week, but what's interesting is because there's Law and Order, there's sites that track this stuff. There was a continuity in the sense that events that happened in the show actually did. It had continuity the way kind of older shows before serialization was a big deal had continuity, because Jill Hennessy played an assistant district attorney to both Michael Moriarty's Ben Stone character and then also to Jack McCoy. Jack McCoy kind of had sort of a romantic relationship with her, something that the show never really overtly said until after she had died. But she was killed off by a drunk driver. She hit his car. There's an episode a season or 2 later where Jack really goes after this guy who ran people down while drunk. And basically Jack was doing it because the guy who killed Jill Hennessy's character only got 8 months minimum security sentence upstate. So you're right. It was not like a serialized show in the sense that, like Twin Peaks or, some of the other shows we've talked about, but it did have a continuity. Because there's even case law from some of the cases that went up to the appellate division within Law and Order were referenced as precedents in later episodes. It's kind of cool how they built off of them, their own case law that they did.
Well, so you may
hold on, check this out.
Okay, Maverick.
Now it's a spicy meatball.
Oh,
yes, that's the other one.
Damn.
That's the other one.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. In fact, we'll come off Law and Order. I would only note for Law and Order, Trial by Jury was a spinoff, and then, which I think I've shared my sour grapes on this program, Law and Order Los Angeles. Fuck that show. That's why the original series was ended. Okay. They went with that instead of the original. But Conviction, a show, I don't know whether it counts as a spinoff or what. Conviction was a show that didn't officially have the Law and Order brand, but took place in the Law and Order universe because Fred Thompson portrayed the district attorney. So these were lawyers working in the New York DA's office, but it was a much more serialized, character-driven show than the Case of the Week shows. The other.
Wait, I have to do a request. Wait, can I go first?
Sure.
No. All right, okay, Jay, I got a request for you. All right, buddy? Put the glasses back on. Go for it. All right, Die Hard with a Vengeance. He finds out that it's Hans's brother. Go.
What?
So, Eric, I'm hearing all these titles, and I'm thinking, okay, you got all these Law and Order, Practice, Boston Legal. Someone likes lawyer shows.
I do.
So, did you like Ally McBeal?
I did like
This
Ally
kid
McBeal,
sucks.
actually.
Dancing
And
Baby.
Ally McBeal crossed over with The Practice.
Well, yeah, because this is David E. Kelly's universe.
Yeah. I actually did like Ally McBeal. I think it sort of faltered in later years, but I remember Ally McBeal was a pretty decent show.
When Robert Downey Jr. was on, it was amazing.
Yeah, his season was good. Again, that was kind of, he was still getting clean, and I think he
But he
sort
got
of fell off
fired.
the wagon at the end, and he got fired. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I thought he was decent on that.
because she was supposed to get this note at the end of season 4, and it was supposed to say, "Will you marry me?"
Yeah,
But he got kicked off the show, so the note said goodbye.
right.
Plot twist: is the Judge a good movie?
I haven't seen it. No, but the TV show The Judge from the 1980s was fantastic. I used to love these it was kind of like it wasn't People's Court, but it was like they would do these they would take real cases and dramatically interpret them, so you would like see like actors portraying like the lawyers and the
Hang on, I see what you're saying, but wait, Bruce, do you like Judge Judy?
I mean, I've watched Judge Judy. It's entertaining. You know, if I got nothing else to watch, I'll watch it. I mean, I don't know.
This little boy needs a fucking spanking over here.
Yeah, but so Jay's reference is to CSI Miami. So there is the CSI universe. So the original CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, which spun off into CSI Miami, which spun off into CSI New York, which then spun off into CSI Cyber, which lasted like maybe one season. I don't know if it even made it that long, but the reason I have less respect for CSI than I do Law and Order, largely because the CSI shows were literally just trying to make the same show and just like take up more market share. At least with Law and Order, they were trying to do like some different, you know, again, the original Law and Order is kind of just a straight, you know, the police for a half an hour, the lawyers for a half an hour, kind of, you know, that like the police investigate a crime, the DAs have to prosecute the case. Or a special victims unit, again, which I don't count as Law and Order, but still focused on specifically sex crimes or crimes against children or crimes against the elderly. I forget. They have a whole kind of mandate about what they investigate. And then criminal intent was sort of, you know, okay, let's look like, you know, the police are still investigating these crimes, but let's give you like what the perpetrators are doing. So it's like you kind of get it from both ends, and like how are they going to catch them, given that you can kind of see both sides. Trial by jury, which I actually quite liked, you know, again, focused purely on like the legal aspect and like what the DAs have to do. Law and Order Los Angeles was kind of the first selling out of the brand, in my opinion, because it really was just, let's do Law and Order in LA, just the original show, but just it's over here now. And then Conviction, similarly, was a new premise, like a new show. Whereas CSI was, okay, we have CSI in Las Vegas, and if you like that, let's do it in Miami. And oh, hey, let's now do it in New York, because that's a place where we're not going to film. It's all going to be in LA.
Who's that jackass from NYPD Blue? David Caruso?
David Caruso, who Jay is, that was Jay's
If David Caruso is on your TV show, get ready for cancellation.
Well, dude, I mean, CSI Miami went like seven or eight seasons.
Well,
they went the stretch.
Did he last the whole time, or did he quit?
Yeah.
He
went well, because the reason he lasted, Cameron, is because the whole fucking show was about him. And by the end of the goddamn show, I was expecting him at the beginning of every episode to, like, you know, take off his sunglasses and fly away and like start beating up criminals. Because he really got to be like a superhero in later seasons.
David Caruso has not been good since Hudson Hawk. And even then, it was questionable.
You know what's funny is like, you know, you always hear the bad shit about David Caruso, but if you go back and you watch NYPD Blue season 1, he's amazing.
Well, it's before the ego.
He is really good. Like, you can, like, I could sort of see how the guy got a big head about himself. Like, he is his role. And again, at that point, he wasn't acting like a cartoon. Like, he got to be on CSI Miami. Really, really good. And even his like closing arc in the beginning of season 2, before they brought again, Bobby was the replacement character's name. I can't think of you know, he played Bail Organa in the Star Wars prequels, but
Smits.
Yeah, Jimmy Smits. Thank you. You know, Jimmy Smits coming in again, he was good too, but David Caruso I thought was solid on NYPD Blue. A dick behind the scenes, apparently. In fact, I just ordered David Milch's book because I've been super into Deadwood. I kind of just wanted to start absorbing stuff by David Milch, and he, you know, he's
not a child, man. You can't be cussing like that. You'll be immersed in David Milch. You'll be like calling everyone a cocksucker.
I gotta tell you, like, that's the thing about Deadwood is like I've never seen such vulgarity spoken so beautifully. Like, somehow they can just
Do you watch it with the subtitles?
I do.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's like poetry.
It is. That's what I'm saying. Like it's amazing. Al Swearingen is saying some of those vile dialogue you will ever hear,
and that was his
and
real
it is
name.
Positively beautiful.
That was his real name in real life. Swearingen. Look it up, everybody.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks they just made it up. No, those. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy that Timothy Olyphantastic. That's all real.
Bullock is a real guy. Al Swearingen's a real guy. Obviously, Bill Hickok was real.
But things are flipped around. I mean, I think that real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, but the whole thing with Deadwood. I mean, him and Seth and Wild Bill Hickok. Spoilers. You can't believe that their friendship is only 4 episodes because it feels so epic.
Yeah. And to be honest, when you read about the actual history, I don't think they really knew each other.
No.
In reality, they didn't know each other as well.
I didn't know Calamity Jane either.
Yeah.
But it makes for good drama.
It does. Keith Carradine's role as Bill Hickok, he was fantastic. I was just, again, I know it's what happens, really what happens.
Well, thanks. Now the fucking show's ruined for me.
Well,
Right.
Or listen, the best thing about Deadwood is this: when you watch the first season, okay, forget about seasons 2 and 3; they are what they are. They are their own thing. But season 1, especially the first few episodes, you're not watching a Western. You're watching reality of what it was like to live in this town, in these towns. Yeah. I mean, you're not like, oh, this is like a Clint Eastwood Western. No, it's like this is what it would really be like to come into this town, set up shop, go drink at the bar. It was not a pretty place. If you were a woman, you were either a saint, a drug addict, or a whore. There was
America.
Yeah.
I
mean, they're bribing everybody. 3.
Yeah. I mean, even like the guy from Newhart, who plays the mayor of the town,
that fucking guy.
He's funny. That child molester Jeffrey Jones shows up as the late.
I couldn't believe he managed to get a role on that show because this was after that. After that came out.
Well, he's 300 pounds heavier, so maybe people don't recognize him.
But in any case, I think we need to start winding this one down. We're approaching the 3-hour mark.
Let's throw out some
we can go for another 5. We're fine.
We certainly. First of all, there are Sausage Factory episodes that I wish had gone. They were like 4 hours, and they went on even longer.
Well, let's see if I can just knock a few off real quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jay, I want to give you the last word. I feel like we've been stepping on.
Oh shit. Okay. The Simpsons, I wanted to mention just because it's the longest running American sitcom, and Tracy Ullman Show is where that came from.
That's true.
Okay.
Let's see.
I feel stupid. I didn't think of that one.
A Different World is one I liked a lot. Spinoff of the Cosby Show.
That's true. That is a good one.
I'm not going to change my opinion just because he raped a bunch of people.
Allegedly.
Well, he's not even. Well, that's the thing. The spinoff, I think you could probably argue for the spinoff now being superior and something you could still watch because he's not on it. I think he appears on it like once or twice, but
Lisa Bonet was kicked off because Angel Heart.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, to be honest, she's only in the first season, and then it's really just about all those other people.
I gotta say, after seeing Angel Heart, it was worth it.
It's a good movie.
Family Matters, spinoff of Perfect Strangers.
Yes, good one.
Daria. Did you guys ever watch Daria?
What was Daria a spinoff of?
From Beavis and Butthead.
Okay.
No shit.
I don't know if that was actually Mike Judge production, but she was a character in Beavis and Butthead.
My wife looks like Daria.
Whose wife? Your wife?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I'll go ahead and finish it up here with Good Morning, Miss Bliss, spinned off. Name on the Bell.
That I think is more of a soft reboot.
Well, they retitled Good Morning, Miss Bliss as Saved by the Bell later on.
And moved the location.
And the college
years. Miss Bliss took place in Wisconsin, and then when it became Saved by the Bell, Bayside was in Southern California.
Okay, how about this then? California Dreams, baby. Isn't that a spinoff of Saved by the Bell?
Is it?
I thought it was branched off somewhere, but I could be wrong.
It ran in the same whatever time that was shown. I know that. Yeah.
I'm gonna scrape the bottom of the barrel. Knight Rider and then Team Knight Rider.
Oh wow.
Aired for one season.
Oh, there's more spinoffs of Knight Rider than that. There's 3.
Yeah, because there's Team Knight Rider, and then there was one before that really was the Knight Rider stuff gets kind of complicated because they also try to revive. They tried to bring back Knight Rider, kind of a sequel show, Knight Rider 2000, which is actually a really good movie. I actually like that movie a lot.
If you get the DVDs, that's the only place to get Knight Rider 2000. The Mill Creek. The Mill Creek Blu-ray does not have it as, but if you get season 1 of Knight Rider 2000 is included.
I gotta pick that. I like Knight Rider 2 because first off, the car they used for the new kit is really awesome, and it's a car that like you've never seen anywhere but that movie because it was like a prototype Dodge that they never mass produced. It's called like a Dodge Avenger or a Dodge something or other. But
when I was a little kid, I got to sit in kit at the in Universal Studios. It was fantastic.
The original kit. There's
some guy in the bushes, talking through the microphone.
I got the theme going on YouTube. I feel like it's 95 again.
But then I also remember there was a reboot of Knight Rider on NBC with Justin Bruini and friggin' Val Kilmer was the car. It pissed me off so much. Joe Bluth was supposed to be the voice of the car. It would have been so much better, except I think NBC had to kick him off because he was also the voice. So the car was a Ford. And at the time, Will Arnett was doing like voice commercials for GMC. And I think Ford was like, bullshit, he can't do it. We don't want the guy who works for our competitor car brand to be the voice of the car. So then they had to go and get Val Kilmer. And Val Kilmer sounded like he took NyQuil before every recording session as the goddamn car.
He took NyQuil.
NyQuil.
Knight Rider.
Oh, nah. There you go.
I have a question for you, Jay. I got a deep cut question for you, Jay, because I don't think Eric's going to know this.
Uh-oh.
We're talking about sequels, reboots, soft reboots. Okay. Where do you put Valerie's family that became the Hogan family? Is that a reboot?
It's a soft reboot. Because I actually know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Isn't that like where the actress actually died?
No, she left. No, she quit the show. Oh, they wouldn't pay her, so she quit the show, and then they got adopted by Sandy Duncan.
What show is this? I'm sorry.
Valerie's family. It became the Hogan family.
Didn't they kill her in a car accident though? Like that was it's not. She didn't actually die. The show just like killed her in some horrible way. Wasn't that what happened?
Yeah, and then Sandy Duncan from The Cat from Outer Space came and adopted him, and that was where Jason Bateman came in, and then he did Teen Wolf 2. So
there you go.
Yeah. You just sound like Pizzle right there. Whenever someone says anything that like he has no interest in, he's like, "There it is. All right."
Well, I know of that story. I don't really have anywhere else to go with it. Did you have any others, Jay? Anything else you can think of?
No, I can say that I just mentioned it. Just a Tinnitus spinoff of Growing Pains.
Good one, and I like that show a lot.
It had like the entire cast of like the first 4 Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yes, it did.
Were the 2 men.
Yeah,
man, Heather Langenkamp she was fantastic on that show, especially when they became the Bullock sisters, like they were singing at the nightclub or whatever. Remember that? That was like in the later seasons.
She always said that when she was doing horror films, she didn't get any threatening people, any stalkers. Yeah. It wasn't until she did Just the 10 of Us that she got her stalker.
Yeah, dude, like your life, man.
So
like everything about her. So.
I have just a couple. We don't need to dig into them too deep, but I've got. So the Golden Girls spun off into the Golden Palace, which is kind of a sequel more than it's a spin-off, depending how you define it, and Empty Nest. Empty Nest actually went on to be kind of its own show, whereas Golden Palace, I think, only went like a season or 2.
The one season,
yeah. Yeah, because it's like B. Arthur wouldn't do another season, so they just put basically like, like I think it really is a spin-off because it's like the classic, like, well, we can't do the original show, so our main characters, like, they open up a hotel. And they're running a hotel now because that's something they would do. But what's his face? The dude who plays Rhodey in the Marvel movies, Don Cheadle. I think Don Cheadle got his start on the Golden Palace. He was one of the guys at the hotel with them.
I know Cheech was the chef.
Yes,
Cheech Marin.
That's right. Don Cheadle and Cheech Marin were on it. I think that's it. And B. Arthur came back at one point, for her obligatory. 1 episode or 2-part, return, but that was it. Animaniacs spun off Pinky and the Brain.
Oh yeah.
Batman the Animated Series spun off Batman Beyond, which spun off the Zeta Project. And I guess depending how you define it, it spun off Justice League, which then spun off Justice League Unlimited. But I think you could make the case those are more sequels than...
Can I just say that Batman Beyond right now, the entire series is at Walmart for $15 on DVD.
That's a crime. That's a great show. I love it.
I didn't care for it, man. I was the animated series original. When it went to Beyond, I lost interest.
We should do like a Batman show or like a Bruce Timm universe show where we talk about Batman and Superman and Justice League and all that. Because Static Shock, actually, does Static Shock count as a spinoff, or was that its own show that just crossed over?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. In any case, for a while there in the 90s, Bruce Timm was running the damn universe. Like, he had like 5 cartoon shows on the air. My only defense of Batman Beyond, Jay, would be I liked that for like the first time, we got to see a Batman after Bruce Wayne. Like, comics have just been regurgitating Bruce Wayne as Batman for years. And yeah, they sort of kind of killed him once and Dick Grayson became Batman. And yeah, we did The Dark Knight Returns, which is like an older Batman. But this was sort of the idea that like, okay, Batman's just a guy. He got too old. Someone else needs to be Batman, and here's that story. And I dug it. Like, I thought it was great. Like, future Batman, future Gotham, I thought was really cool. And then for my money, Batman Return of the Joker is quite possibly one of the best like animated Batman films there is. It's just, I mean, hell, that's 10 times better than Batman Forever, Batman and Robin.
Oh, absolutely.
And just so you know, Warner Archive is releasing on Blu-ray Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, fantastic movie. I remember like Siskel and Ebert, gave that movie like 2 thumbs up. They were fawning over it. And it really is. It's shocking to think they weren't even going to release that in theaters. They were just going to, I think it was just going to be kind of like split up into episodes or just kind of released on TV. I think that movie did extremely well and really holds up.
Well, one thing I heard going through all the Psycho movies is before Psycho opened, it had gotten such bad reviews, the original film.
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock had meetings with Universal about stopping the theatrical release and cutting them up into 2 Alfred Hitchcock Presents episodes.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Psycho would have been a TV show.
What an alternate universe that would have been.
Yeah, because he shot it with his TV crew, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, imagine if Psycho had never opened in the theater.
That's insane.
We never would have gotten Halloween.
Yeah.
We never would have gotten
That's true.
entire boom of horror movies.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, guys. I think for anybody who's stuck with us the full 3 hours, I say God bless you. For anyone who enjoys the whole 3 hours after the fact, God bless you. Enjoy. The only thing I would leave us with, me personally, is that Game of Thrones starts this weekend. Like I noted at the top of the show, I do believe Pizzawell, and I don't know if it's going to be under the Sausage Factory brand or how we're doing it, but I do believe there is going to be a show about that either tomorrow or at some point before Sunday.
I think tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. So keep a lookout for that. Looking forward to it, and I think we'll probably talk about it a little bit on our next show, which we try to do these every Wednesday, but since we took that 2-week break as life intervened, let me just say that we will have another episode, but I'm not going to 100% commit to being next Wednesday. Who knows what'll happen, but subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you'll get the latest and get notified when we have new episodes. But Cameron, Jay, Orc, final thoughts before we depart?
This was a good topic.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. This was fantastic. This is geeky. This is what I wanted this show to be. Like, this geeky TV stuff. Like, this is fantastic.
We could do another 3 hours right now.
We really could. I've got so much more to go on, yeah.
I think the viewers just need to know that we have a tremendous wealth of information. We may sometimes skew off the topic, but we will come back to it. We always come back to it. But there's because what you do is we talk about these shows, and then I get off these podcasts, and then I want to watch some of these shows. Like now, I want to watch Knight Rider 2000.
I was gonna say I feel jealous you've got that. I want to try and pick that up.
It's like $5, man. You can get it at Best Buy.
Yeah.
To bring everything full circle, Tootie from The Facts of Life was the smoke monster in Lost. No, that's not true.
No. But Adams from Deadwood was. Spoiler alert.
He was what?
The smoke monster.
Oh yeah.
Al Swearengen's guy Adams. That's shit.
Well, the guy that's Al Swearengen's I don't know. He's got he's one of those guys with the beard and the kind of chubby dude. He was the photographer, the cameraman in Scream. Courtney Cox's cameraman.
You know, it's been killing me that I couldn't remember what I knew him from. That's fucking it.
Yeah.
But before we leave, wait, another orc dumb question. Here we go. Most terrifying TV show you've seen?
Most terrifying TV show I've seen?
Terrifying, as in on the same level.
Ironically terrifying?
Bone chilling? No. Bone chilling like Conjuring and Insidious. American Horror Story? Something like that, because I'm still noob. You just had to pick one.
Cameron, you go. I don't want to. I got to think about this for a second.
Terrifying. You ask me these questions. I'm going to think of the first thing that comes to my mind. It's not a full episode. It's not a full season. I would say it's the first 20 minutes of the final episode of last season's Game of Thrones. The whole build up to the church explosion was so fantastically suspenseful.
That's true.
And then when we got the payoff with the little king just stepping out of the window and just dropping to his death, I mean that was a sustained mouth drop.
Is that terrifying though? I mean, Orc, are you looking for things that literally scare you?
I'm talking about your blood pressure's through the roof. You're on the edge of your seat.
Okay, you ready for this? All right. I wasn't horrified, but I felt tense, and I could see everybody else around me getting terrified whenever I watched this episode, and that's Buffy season 4, Hush.
Hush is awesome.
Hush is creepy, dude. Yeah.
Is that on Netflix?
Yes, it is. Wait, no, Buffy is not on Netflix. It's on Hulu.
They took it off, huh?
It was on there, yeah.
I
tell you a scary show is Penny Dreadful. I don't know if you guys have checked that out.
Oh, that's got my
on Showtime.
Green.
It is on Netflix though.
I think I'm torn because there's a few things that popped them. I'll say what just popped in my mind first. And I think it scared me when I first saw it more because I was a little kid, although it still is chilling now. There are many X-Files episodes, to bring this back to the X-Files, that scared me. Because, it was sort of a ritual. Like, my mom would go play bingo. My dad and I, we'd get some pizza. We'd sit down and watch X-Files back when it was on Friday nights before it moved to Sunday nights. And I really think it was the third episode, Squeeze, featuring the character who could kind of squeeze his way through vents and he could stretch his limbs and stuff. Just the cinematography of that episode, the music, everything about it, even just the makeup on the dude. I remember being scared. Really, I was scared of that episode.
Sounds pretty terrifying.
It was a creepy ass episode. There are other X-Files episodes that were scary to me too. It's also a first season X-Files episode, the green bugs that came out of the deforestation. They have to go up into the woods and they can't communicate with anybody. Darkness Falls. That is the episode title. That episode scared the crap out of me too. But honestly, I could keep rattling off X-Files episodes. There's a few that got me.
Org, if you really want to see a terrifying show, just watch 6 seasons of Oz. That's pretty terrifying as a man.
First of all, Oz is a fantastic show. Yeah. Oz is a great. Actually, Orc, you would love Oz.
Yeah.
I know you like hardcore shit.
I didn't know you could get HBO for cheaper ways than you recommended me a few months ago on different various sites, obviously. But going back to HBO's back catalog, their older stuff Sopranos is pretty old. But I guess Oz, was that their first really big show, or was it?
Yeah, yes, it was, and it's fantastic.
Oz is kind of the prototype. A lot of people say Sopranos was the first. Really, Oz was the first, because it kind of was the first. It was the first real series that HBO. I remember watching Oz back in the '90s. My mom would sometimes watch it, and I don't know why the hell she let me watch it, because there was some dark shit.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
It's got rape through the whole thing, man. And
Oz is the reason why I was excited about the actor. I'm not even going to try and spell his name. It's like Adewale something.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
guy who played
yeah.
Mr. Echo on Lost.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Coming to
Oh,
Lost,
was that-
I was
was
like,
he,
oh,
But what's his name? Who plays Schilliner?
Was
The
he
guy
Adebisi?
from Whiplash.
that is
Oh,
Adebisi.
yeah.
Adebisi
J.K.
was
Simmons.
Mr. Echo.
J.R.
J.K. Simmons.
J.K.
J.K.
Simmons.
J.K. Simmons.
Okay,
Yeah,
listen, watch Oz just for him. He's amazing.
Oh,
Oh,
dude,
man.
that movie, that alien
Oh.
abduction movie, where
Oh.
he's like the psychiatrist, he makes that movie. He's like,
And
that's
Eric-
when they take you.
And Eric, bringing it full circle here, half the cast of Law and Order show up in Oz.
and Homicide: Life on the Street.
Yeah.
Okay, but
I think it was
got a lot
filmed
of
in Baltimore, as a matter of fact.
Cameron, I got a lot of stuff to watch. Okay,
And
Oz first.
Angela is married to the main dude in The Office.
And
That's the senator.
when they got rid of what's her name after the 3rd season of Oz, she went over and became the wife of the Sopranos.
There you go.
Yes, she did.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I really need help though. Oz or Orange is the New Black?
Oz.
Oh,
Yeah, I would watch Oz.
No, do
I
not.
mean,
do
Orange is the New Black is good, but
Yeah,
it's,
but no, seriously, just watch the first season of Oz, Orc. You will not regret it. And then the second
Okay.
season's even better.
Yeah.
By the time you get to season 6, it gets kind of weak, but the first 3 seasons are amazing.
How many were there in total? Do
6,
you remember?
like
6?
HBO always does 6.
Yeah.
you got
Oh,
fluff.
I didn't notice that.
It's good
Yeah.
stuff, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, guys.
Beecher?
I think
Was that his
if
name?
our viewers
Beecher.
leave, even just with the idea to watch Oz, I think we've succeeded in our mission here tonight.
Beecher was the state senator that Angela married in The Office.
Beecher? No, that
Yeah.
was not him. That
Check
was
it out.
that's a different actor. I will check it out. I'm telling you. You mean Beecher, the guy who was Beecher was kind of like the quote unquote good guy in Oz. He was like a
Yeah.
lawyer that accidentally killed a
That-
kid drunk driving. That
Right.
is not the state senator that Angela. I
Okay.
would bet you $100, Jay. I
I'm
know
gonna
for a
look.
fact that is not him.
Want to go look?
Because the reason I know is because he's an actor that
Yeah.
he was on Homicide in a recurring role, and he's been in a ton of different things. He was on Person of Interest. He's a character actor from way back, but
Yeah,
it's not that guy.
Beecher plays the motorcycle guy in Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning that gets killed with the chainsaw.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, okay, and I don't think I
Tru-
saw that. so
Trust me,
I
he's
don't
in
know.
it, Eric.
Those dudes look similar, though, don't they?
They do look.
could've sworn that was the same
I can
guy.
see why you might confuse them. They do look somewhat similar, but that is not the
I'm
same
gonna go
guy.
see who the other guy is.
Yeah.
The other guy, is he from like Heroes or some shit?
Yes, it's that fucker.
Okay, that's where I know him from.
Fucker.
That's where I know him
Orc,
from. now, okay.
I'm scared to death to see you in the group chat after you see a season or 2 of Oz.
After what I've been through, which is way less than most people, I think it'll bring new light to my life. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, let me tell you something. I caught my wife, not my current wife, but I had a wife before this years and years ago, and I caught her cheating. And while we were going through the separation and getting divorced, that's when I discovered Oz, and it really helped me through the whole ordeal.
Oh my god, I would think that would
That's
make
awesome.
it worse. Jesus.
No, it kept my mind off everything
Oh, okay.
because I was like, wow, there's a lot of guys out there that have it far worse than me.
That's true.
Now,
Getting swastikas
that's
tattooed
kinda
on
what
their
I was
ass.
going off of. That's kind of what I was saying. But what was the first season?
Hey, look,
97, I think.
97.
All right, guys.
Lost. I mean, Oz was Lee Turg.
Yeah.
Lee Turgeson, that's his name.
Mhm.
Yep, that's
And Jack
Beecher.
Coleman is the other guy.
That's correct.
They do look really similar. In my defense.
I mean, they're both kind of pie-faced white guys. I mean, yeah.
There you go.
Would you say this is easily the best thing J.K. Simmons has ever done?
Oh God.
Well,
Oh,
it's,
Really?
no, I mean, you look at he's so good in like Spider-Man, and all kind but this is like his character in Whiplash, just as a Nazi, and the warden. The warden is what's his name from Ghostbusters?
Yeah, Ernie Hudson's the warden.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Winston.
Those farmers insurance commercials are pretty dope though.
Yeah, they are. We've seen it.
Oh, and speaking of Special Victims Unit, if you want to see Chris Maloney's penis and
Yeah.
see it often and see him smash it up against
I'm ready.
glass for
I'm ready.
everybody to enjoy,
Yeah.
watch Oz because you'll enjoy that.
And if you were a fan of 90210 and you want to see Luke Perry naked, with my last name, that's his last name in that goddamn show, Reverend Cloutier, or they call him Cloutier in that damn show. It pissed me off. I'm like, really, Luke Perry? Really?
Yeah.
Go back with Brenda.
Wait a second.
All right,
Are
when
you
we're
guys trying to
around to the
turn
Luke
me
Perry
away?
nudity and the Chris Maloney nudity, I think we've had a good show.
All right. Long live
thank you
David Crusoe.
again.
Already show.
Jay,
Wait, come on, guys. Come on, guys.
Cameron,
Just another hour. Just one more.
Thank you very much for joining me. I do appreciate it. Cameron, I owe you and Jay and Orc a great debt. You guys, kind of encouraged me to do this. I very much enjoy it. I think we have a good time. We will have a good time the next time we do a show.
More?
Talk about all kinds of fun stuff then.
I'm glad you don't
One?
regret it.
So good night, everybody. I'll talk later and have fun enjoying the millions of shows we just mentioned.
Eric, one of these nights you should just turn off your computer and just leave it live and let Jay and Orc and I just keep going.
Perhaps we'll try that one week when we do our experimental episode. That's what we'll try. But thanks a lot, guys. Good night, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.